Netherlands-based charity foundation DAIDA has been doing its bit to bring about a change. Its stated mission is to improve the living conditions for those at the lower end of the pyramid in cities of the developing countries. In an attempt to incentivize potential future change leaders to start thinking about the need and the means to make cities sustainable, inclusive, and livable for all, it has instituted a global urban thesis award. The idea is to encourage master's students from around the world to think beyond the standard topics for their academic dissertations and take one step towards changing the world.
The primary reason for DAIDA Awards is simply to make young people, to nudge them to think about issues which are really relevant for the society, instead of just get their degrees.
What I always find very inspiring about the entries is how young people are so socially engaged in what is happening in the world. I think when I had just graduated, I was completely focused on design. I was only thinking about what does my design look like. And I find it very heartening to see that young people nowadays also have a very good social, they're also considered with the impact and what the social values are of their thesis, which I find very inspiring.
How does it work? The competition is open for any master's student in architecture, design, psychology, town planning, or any subject related to the urban environmental landscape. Universities around the world can apply via the global knowledge platform, My Livable City, and select a handful of the best theses from students in their institutes to participate in the DAIDA competition. The topic for each year is selected by the DAIDA jury and board, and is always socially and environmentally relevant to the countries of the emerging economies. In the past, the themes have been water and urban development, inclusive cities, designing for climate change and addressing minorities.
So the theme when I participated in the DAIDA competition was Cities for All, Addressing Minorities. It was appealing for me because it aligned perfectly with my academic research during my master's, as well as my ongoing professional work in India, where I focus on affordable housing or low-income housing. I interpreted the theme of Cities for All, Addressing Minorities from the lens of cities for economic minorities and housing justice. My focus was on the city of New Delhi in India.
When given a particular theme, students are free to interpret it, relying on their own upbringing, life, and work experience.
The lens through which the students, either from their background of the specialization that they're doing, they look at it, the cities they choose can be very different. So for example, our theme of minorities, somebody talked about children, while somebody else talked about women, somebody else talked about widows.
It was actually my tutors who recommended me to put my thesis forwards for this competition. So the theme that year was the inclusive city, and actually it was really relevant to our studio project at the time. The problem we were dealing with was a result of housing crisis in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. And the background of that is that there was mass rural to urban migration, and the response from the government was to create condominium housing to house everybody, thus creating quite an uninclusive, kind of very homogeneous approach.
This award is open to students of participating universities and educational institutes from all over the world. In the past, they have presented solutions for cities in Egypt, Tunisia, South Africa, Ethiopia, and Kenya in Africa, to India, Bangladesh, Philippines, and Oman in Asia, as well as Ecuador, Colombia, Brazil, Paraguay, and Argentina in South America. The students in the universities themselves come from various countries, making this a truly international and diverse competition.
My thesis was focused on children, their behavior, and how our cities can influence their growth. And unfortunately, according to studies, children are one of the marginalized groups that are not considered while designing cities. I addressed the impact of the physical characteristics of streets on children's independent mobility in new cities, especially in Cairo, Egypt. So one of DAIDA's objectives is to help students implement their projects in their countries. So this one was one of the reasons that encouraged me to apply for the DAIDA competition, that I would be able to implement the interventions based on my thesis in the neighborhood that was in my case study.
One piece of feedback I received was around the need to generate stronger urban design guidelines for the proposal. So the degree that I was studying at the time had a design component, but it was more focused on the social and economic and political lens of urban planning. So after I received that feedback, I took an urban design short course, and I'm considering studying further in the urban design space to deepen my understanding of design and potentially use that to enhance the proposal. And my thesis work and the award has placed me in a leadership position in that NGO, where I'm currently leading the food systems and food security related projects, which relates directly to my thesis, which looked at food systems and urban food security.
The jury shortlists 10 to 12 candidates who then present their thesis in an online award ceremony, along with other participants and the professors who nominated them. Participating in a recognized international competition brings students the opportunity to interact with expert jurors and industry veterans, learn from peers all over the world, while defending their ideas on an international stage.
I think what one must remember is that even if you have a very good thesis that's well written, that has a good solution, that has a good argument, even then the thesis may not stand out enough, because we also look at the way that the thesis is presented and how you tell your story. What we have found is that a thesis that we have just by reading it, we have thought, oh, it's a good thesis, but it's not excellent. When the jury has the presentation, and the presentation is really good, then we judge that thesis also on a higher level. While the opposite is also true, that sometimes we have a very well-written thesis, but the presentation and the explanation of the thesis at the presentation is not so good, then we judge it slightly less. So it's really important how you tell your story.
It's a learning for students like me who come from
Members comprise architects, economists, management, housing, and consultants, as well as planners. So, what participating in DAIDA competition brings? A substantial prize, which is often the incentive for further research. Besides the cash prizes, the jury may also award special prizes to ideas that are scalable, and winners can start further researching and implementing their solutions.
The scale is different, but the creativity, the solutions, the analysis, they have to demonstrate that they're able to provide us with a sound solution and analysis. The award is actually evolving, and we universities and faculties. Obviously, that it requires an additional work of those submitting their thesis and their design work and their research work to the DAIDA award. I see the future with good perspectives.
I think that every student, winner or not winner, had added value about the big problems of this earth. And this problem about urban cities, this problem about diversity, this problem about the climate change. So I think that
Participate free for university can select the master's thesis relevant to this theme. Part universities can email academy@mylivablecity.com to know more. For now, let's hear it from some of the previous winners.
My name is Tessa Chittenden. I'm based in the city of Cape Town. I won second prize in the DAIDA Awards in 2022. The reason I got my current job was partly because of my success in the awards. And it's also a great panel of experts so that you can really deepen the strength of your thesis proposal.
Hi, I'm Myrna Labib. I'm winner of DAIDA Awards in 2023. Since winning it and have been more focused on my research topic from different perspectives that were presented to me by the jurors during the competition. You should participate in the DAIDA Award because implementing your project on ground, in addition to the possibility of your next research idea, could be right around the corner.
Hi, I'm Zubing Shir, and I was a winner in the DAIDA competition in 2021. I now work in London in Foster & Partners, and I fully recommend you to participate in the DAIDA competition because as a student coming out of university, I think it's super important, wherever you may be afterwards, to continue your fascinations that you had at university. And to continue exploring your area of interest, and to always keep sort of your convictions at the back of your mind throughout the rest of your lives.
I am Girisha Sethi. I received the DAIDA Foundation Award in the year 2023-24. As somebody who's been fortunate to receive the DAIDA Award, I'd encourage students and graduates of architecture, urban planning, and associated fields to participate in the DAIDA competition, as it is a wonderful, generous platform that not only recognizes and awards work that address critical issues in the field, but also promotes it at an international level.
Hi, this is architect Gauri Satam from Mumbai, India. I am the winner of DAIDA Awards 2021. The awards has definitely helped me in understanding that we as architects could contribute a lot to these urban problems through some participatory and inclusive planning alongside the locals, and giving some very specific solutions which are more practical with the help of these locals.
What would it take to make your city more livable? Cleaner air and water? People-friendly infrastructure? Waste management? Certainly. And safety and security. Welcome to our world of My Livable City. Since 2014, we have been working to inform, inspire, and educate people about the creation of livable cities. We started as a journal in India, and today have grown to be a global knowledge platform and think tank through print publications, digital content, workshops, training seminars, ground activations, international partnerships, and so on. Founded and steered by Sashikala Venkatraman, city lover and management advisor, and Shyam Khandekar, a veteran international urban designer, our MLC journey has been supported by a worldwide team. You too can. We want your thoughts. If you're tired of labels like affordable housing, but would like to see equitable cities, we'll show you successful global examples. We are growing and evolving. And if you have an opinion, an idea, a case study that you want to share, reach out to us. Together we can create the cities that we want to live in.
The Netherlands-based charity foundation DAIDA has been doing its bit to bring about a change. Its stated mission is to improve the living conditions for those at the lower end of the pyramid in cities of the developing countries. In an attempt attempt to incentivize potential future change leaders to start thinking about the need and the means to make cities sustainable, inclusive, and livable for all, it has instituted a global urban thesis award. The idea is to encourage master's students from around the world to think beyond the standard topics for their academic dissertations and take one step towards changing the world.
The primary reason for DAIDA Awards is simply to make young people, to nudge them to think about issues which are really relevant for the society, instead of just get their degrees.
What I always find very inspiring about the entries is how young people are so socially engaged in what is happening in the world. I think when I had just graduated, I was completely focused on design. I was only thinking about what does my design look like. And I find it very heartening to see that young people nowadays also have a very good social, they're also considered with the impact and what the social values are of their thesis, which I find very inspiring.
How does it work? The competition is open for any master's student in architecture, design, psychology, town planning, or any subject related to the urban environmental landscape. Universities around the world can apply via the global knowledge platform, My Livable City, and select a handful of the best theses from students in their institutes to participate in the DAIDA competition. The topic for each year is selected by the DAIDA jury and board, and is always socially and environmentally relevant to the countries of the emerging economies. In the past, the themes have been water and urban development, inclusive cities, designing for climate change and addressing minorities.
So the theme when I participated in the DAIDA competition was Cities for All, Addressing Minorities. It was appealing for me because it aligned perfectly with my academic research during my master's, as well as my ongoing professional work in India, where I focus on affordable housing or low-income housing. I interpreted the theme of Cities for All, Addressing Minorities from the lens of cities for economic minorities and housing justice. My focus was on the city of New Delhi in India.
When given a particular theme, students are free to interpret it, relying on their own upbringing, life, and work experience.
So, for example, our theme of minorities, somebody talked about children, while somebody else talked about women, somebody else talked about widows.
It was actually my teachers who recommended my thesis for this competition. The theme that year was the inclusive city, and actually it was relevant to our studio project at the time. The problem we were dealing with was a result of, housing crisis in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. And the background of that is that there was mass rural to urban migration, and the response from the government was to create condominium housing to house everybody, thus creating quite an uninclusive, kind of very homogenous approach.
This award is open to students of participating universities and educational institutes from all over the world. In the past, they have presented solutions for cities in Egypt, Tunisia, South Africa, Ethiopia, and Kenya in Africa, to India, Bangladesh, Philippines, and Oman in Asia, as well as Ecuador, Colombia, Brazil, Paraguay, and Argentina in South America. The students in the universities themselves come from various countries, making this a truly international and diverse competition.
My thesis was focused on children, their behavior, and how our cities can influence their growth. And unfortunately, according to studies, children are one of the marginalized groups that are not considered while designing cities. I addressed the impact of the physical characteristics of streets on children's independent mobility in new cities, especially in New Cairo, Egypt. So one of DAIDA's objectives is to help students implement their projects in their countries. So this was one of the reasons that encouraged me to apply for the DAIDA competition, that I would be able to implement the interventions based on my thesis in the neighborhood that was in my case study.
One piece of feedback I received was around the need to generate stronger urban design guidelines for the proposal. So the degree that I was studying at the time had a design component, but it was more focused on the social and economic and political lens of urban planning. So after I received that feedback, I took an urban design short course, and I'm considering studying further in the urban design space to deepen my understanding of design and potentially use that to enhance the proposal. And my thesis work and the award has placed me in a leadership position in that NGO, where I'm currently leading the food systems and food security related projects, which relates directly to my thesis, which looked at food systems and urban food security.
The jury shortlists 10 to 12 candidates who then present their thesis in an online award ceremony, along with other participants and the professors who nominated them. Participating in a recognized international competition brings students the opportunity to interact with expert jurors and industry veterans, learn from peers all over the world, while defending their ideas on an international stage.
I think what one must remember is that even if you have a very good thesis that's well written, that has a good solution, that has a good argument, even then the thesis may not stand out enough, because we also look at the way that the thesis is presented and how you tell your story. What we have found is that a thesis that we have just by reading it, we have thought, oh, it's a good thesis, but it's not excellent. When the jury has the presentation, and the presentation is really good, then we judge that thesis also on a higher level. While the opposite is also true, that sometimes we have a very well-written thesis, but the presentation and the explanation of the thesis at the presentation is not so good, then we judge it slightly less. So it's really important how you tell your story.
It's a learning for students like me who come from India, a developing country, to see presentations of from some really polished colleges, and the way they present their work. So it's a learning. So it's always the exposure that DAIDA brings to the table.
DAIDA is currently supporting projects in India, Thailand, Philippines, Somalia, Kenya, Zimbabwe, Peru, and Egypt. Its board members comprise architects, development economists, management, housing, and real estate consultants, as well as urban planners. So, what does participating and winning the DAIDA competition bring? For one, a substantial cash prize, which is often the incentive for further research. Besides the cash prizes, the jury may also award special prizes to ideas that are scalable, and winners can start further researching and implementing their solutions.
The scale is different, but the creativity, the solutions, the analysis, they have to demonstrate that they're able to provide us with a sound solution and analysis. The award is actually evolving, and we see more and more very interesting entries from different universities and faculties. Obviously, to the DAIDA award, I see the future with good perspective.
I think that every student, winner or not winner, had value of the big problems of this earth. And this problem about urban cities, this problem about diversity, this problem about the climate change. So I think that everyone has so much to tell and so much to think about it, that they are the young generation who have to be responsible for the next 50 years about these big issues.
Participation is free for Universum to know more. For now, let's hear it from some of the previous winners.
My name is Tessa Chittenden. I'm based in the city of Cape Town. I won second prize in the DAIDA Award in 2022. The reason I got my current job was partly because of my success in the awards. And it's also a great opportunity to receive feedback on your thesis from a world-class panel of experts, so that you can really deepen the strength of your thesis proposal?
Hi, I'm Myrna Labib. I'm winner of DAIDA Awards in 2023. Since winning it and have been more focused on my research topic from different perspectives that were presented to me by the jurors during the competition. You should participate in the DAIDA Award because implementing your project on ground, in addition to the possibility of your next research idea, could be right around the corner.
Hi, I'm Zubing Shir, and I was a winner in the DAIDA competition in 2021. I now work in London in Foster & Partners. And out of university, I think it's super important, wherever you may be afterwards, to continue your fascinations that you had at university and to continue exploring your area of interest, and to always keep sort of your ideas and convictions at the back of your mind throughout the rest of your lives.
I am Girisha Sethi. I received the DAIDA Foundation Award in the year 2023-24. As somebody who's been fortunate to receive the DAIDA Award, I'd encourage students and graduates of architecture, urban planning, and associated fields to participate in the DAIDA competition, as it is a wonderful, generous platform that not only recognizes and awards work that address critical issues in the field, but also promotes it at an international level.
Hi, this is architect Gauri Satam from Mumbai, India. I am the winner of DAIDA Awards 2021. The awards has definitely helped me in understanding that we as architects could contribute a lot to these urban problems through some participatory and inclusive planning alongside the locals, and giving some very specific solutions which are more practical with the help of these locals.
Hello, everybody who is attending this presentation of the shortlisted candidates of the DAIDA Awards of this year. Welcome, and we hope to have an inspiring 2.5 hours, in which the 9 shortlisted candidates will present, made by a foundation called DAIDA, which is a Dutch foundation. It's a small Dutch foundation. And we have given grants to different projects around the world, but we remain a small foundation. And one of the main initiatives which we have instituted, which we have continued to do for the last so many years, is the DAIDA Awards. The idea behind the DAIDA Awards is so that we can get students, young people like you who have promising careers ahead of you, to not only think of academically and aesthetically pleasing master's thesis, but also socially and economically relevant thesis topics. So every year DAIDA Awards is given to the best master's thesis on a theme which we decide, and the theme is always something related socially and environmentally relevant topics. The topics in the last few years which we have used have been, among others, climate change, addressing minorities, urbanization and nature, which was last year, and this year, of course, about public spaces and infrastructure. Let me introduce you to the jury members who will be deciding on who should be given the three first, second, and third awards. Can I have a picture of the juries, please, Afaq? The three jury members besides me are on the picture which you're seeing on the right top, Liesel Vivier. She's an experienced architect and urban planner, originally from Zimbabwe and studied at the University of Cape Town and afterwards also the Delft University, Netherlands, and is since settled in the Netherlands. She works for the Newtown Corporation. She's a senior planner at the Newtown Corporation of Almere in the Netherlands. Bottom left is Claudio Ascioli, originally from Brazil, presently in Germany, and he has been all around the world as consultant for all sorts of organizations, also writing research papers for them, but also judging them on behalf of organizations of United Nations, including UN Habitat, etc. He's a seasoned, very senior architect and urban planner. Then on the right bottom, you see Ashim Manna, originally from India. He has just last year finished his doctorate at the Catholic University of Leuven on a topic, and vulnerable landscape can be kept in balance, as it were. But in particular case, in this case, it was a doctorate related to the Himalayas in India. So these jury members, besides myself, will be judging you and will be asking the questions after your presentations. After 5 of you, today we have 9 of you, which is a long list. So what we will do is we'll give the first 5 participants time to present themselves. Each of you gets 8 minutes to present. There's a clock on the screen. I think it's explained to you. The moment the 8th minute is finished, we will shut your presentation down. And then the jury gets 7 minutes to ask basically questions related to if they have not understood something. We will judge it, of course, in a period in the weeks following that. After 5 presentations, we will have a 15-minute break in which a film will be played on how earlier DAIDA award winners have been affected by the fact that they have got the DAIDA award. So it might be nice for you to watch that film. And then the following 4 shortlisted candidates will do the presentation. That much for now. I think without wasting any time, let's start with the presentation of the first candidate. So can we have the projection of the first candidate and the particulars of ARC? So here we have Johanna Lydia from the School of Planning and Architecture, Vijayawada. I think this is the first time that School of Planning and Architecture, Vijayawada participant has been shortlisted. Master of Architecture.
Yes. So my thesis topic is reclaiming abandoned landscapes for people and nature for the case of Therusalam Quarry at Chennai. We'll be going through introduction, site documentation, case study, site analysis strategies, program, zoning, and master plan, and then detailed design. When we think of public and spaces and infrastructure, we often think of lands like this, streetscapes, or even waterfront. These like Chennai, where it's very low, below to the standards required by WHO. Rapid urbanization has led to spatial inadequacy and high land prices to spatial inequality. How do we solve this? By considering sustainable sites which have been abandoned, like brownfields, landfills, or even quarry, like the Therusalam Quarry, which is my site, which is much closer to our homes than we have imagined. Because people here in Chennai and even around Tamil Nadu, which is the state it is located in, come here to visit it. It's a well-known tourist attraction spot here. But since it's not regulated or developed, and abandoned in 2012. This has led to many issues, in spite of it having many potentials, like accidental falls and surrounding industries which happen to come because of the quarry, which is a Charnakite quarry leading to sand units being around the site, leading to air pollution. And the government sees it as a potential water source for the city's woes of water. And the people in the city see it as a potential tourist spot, and nature see it as a place to inhabit. So by doing this project, even if we take the example of Tamil Nadu, the state in India, we can see that it can be scaled to reclaim approximately around 500 quarries which are there. My quarry my site falls into the rough, and these are the potential parameters by which the potential has been studied. Moving on to the site, we can see that it's located in Chennai in India, and it's very near to the city center. Around like 15-minute drive will take us there. And when we see the history and understanding the land, we can see that this around 100 years back was a small hillock, and it has been quarried out to become what it is now, surrounded by dense urban area, and this once was in the outskirts of the cities, almost in the middle of the city now. When we see into the land use, as we saw the spatial inadequacy and inequity, we can see it in the master plan of Chennai, where the Jerusalem quarry is located here. And around 10-kilometer radius, we don't see an open space properly. And the context of land use, when we zoom in further, we can see that it is surrounded by residential, and even in the land cover, we don't see much of green spaces except for these mounts which are there. In spite of it being very well connected, it's very nearby port, it's connected stations, it's connected city roads. The area itself is not much accessible because it's unsafe, and it's surrounded by industrial zones and hillocks. Major landmarks around it we can see is very institutional and residential kind of zones. And people often come here for a trek on the nearby hill for recreation. The land ownership is government land. And when we try to understand the site in itself, it formed millions of years back through magma and volcanic eruptions, and it caused magmatic metamorphism, which caused to form the Charnakite rock, which is there in the quarry now, which is very well known for its strong durability, and is used as a coarse and fine aggregate in construction. The landform, as we dive deep, we can see that it's made of it's an incel bug and has a very thin layer of sand in it, which suggests we need to reclaim the soil. And since it has been quarried out through blasting, it has very strong cliff character to it. And when we see the hydrology of this area, we can notice that throughout the years, it has been increasing in the water level, and it will in the future also increase if we don't carefully manage the water and outlets. It will cause flooding in like 40 years. Studying the hydrology, we can see that there are many types of land within this quarry, where there's highlands, lowlands, and wetland areas which could be possibly become, and it's already been a naturally succession happened, and it became a good space wetland for the birds and all of those. And when we see in the city level, we can see that it's highly disconnected from the existing canals and water bodies which are there, which there in turn connects into the sea. We can see that the quarrying also not only affects the surface water flow, but also the groundwater flow, which needs to be reclaimed. The amount of water which flows into it, and considering the peak annual rainfalls, this has a huge potential to be used as a freshwater source also, which is already being considered by the government. When we see the visual experience of the lake, Quarry Lake, we can see that it has huge cliffs surrounded by one half of it has industrial zone, which is dusty kind of. And we can see that, okay. We can see that these areas have been visually like this. So the visual analysis has been done. And we can see that ecologically it has been covered by invasive species and also the non-invasive species around the area. And through the study, we can see that it has huge potential to be developed into a forest ecosystem. And when we study the elevation and slope, we can see that for various activities, this can be used for like walking, trekking, and recreational activities also. The trees have been documented, almost 50% of it is invasive and have been planned to remove. And the sun and shade analysis tell about the thermal comfort of the area and where the shades need to be present. The existing circulation has the vehicular and the trekking point where people come into. And when we study about the people after the site, we can see that people see it as just a minute, I was unable to see the countdown in the screen. Okay. So, okay, I'll just.
Tell us about design. When you have 8 minutes, you should stay to 8 minutes.
Yes, but I was unable to see.
No, doesn't matter. You should know your own age. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
So very quickly go through, because my question, if much potential for on the and the natural issues
Yes.
on the other hand, are you still allowing people in your design to go there and disturb it, or are you able to combine the different interests? That's my question.
I'm able to combine the different interests by understanding the people's need and understanding the site's potential for nature to be inhabited. I'm separating the zones of natural sensitivity so that the nature doesn't get disturbed by the people, while people can also safely enjoy the nature by providing boundaries and uses, different types of uses for different types of age and people group. And I'm also providing, in the landscape perspective, I'm providing the natural native species which are allocated, which also helps the environmental regeneration in the area. And these are the zones by which I'm segregating the people and the nature so that they don't get disturbed by each other and also can co-live within each other.
Okay, thank you. Other jury members, I can't see them somehow, but Liesel, Claudio, Ashim, one of you, anyone has a question?
Yeah, I
Yes,
do have.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Yes.
There's sort of many different organizations and people trying to make claims on it. Nature, people, but also the city using water source. Do you think that an improvement you have brought into the government will be able to use it, potential water source?
Yes, of course, much better because of eutrophication, we can see that entire thing has become, it has caused algal bloom currently, and they're unable to use it properly. So by me providing wetlands and treatment gardens around this area, wherever the water inlet comes naturally, I'm able to treat the water through natural remediation, and it's much better for the people to use it and much safer for them to extract it. And as we saw in the study, we can infer that it raises around 3 meters per year because of the surrounding runoff which is coming. So it won't affect the amount of water which is being extracted, while also making sure that people get and nature gets water and habitat around.
Okay, thank you.
Claudio, yes, please.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a pity, Johanna, that you did not plan very well your presentation, because you have an incredible analysis of the site, and a very unique site. Now, since you did not present us with the design and you're showing here, what is the fundamental change that you are proposing in the use of the area and in the management of this enormous public space?
When it comes to the uses, I've segregated it based on nature basis zones and for people, where people can use it for adventure, explore nature, and wellness and recreational areas, and places for nature where it can ecologically regenerate habitat of grasslands and different types of zones which adapt to the existing quarry landscape. And we also have knowledge centers and knowledge exchange areas, which helps in improving and informing people about the place, so people make informed decisions around the site, and which leads to the overall improvement of the spaces like these quarry.
Okay.
Ashim?
Thank you.
Yes, I have a small question.
Yeah.
Thank you for your presentation. Johanna, this looks like an example of, wastelands in Chennai, for example, a lot of drying wetlands and quarries. And you did talk about invasive species, and, you talk about that how your project will introduce the stewardship between government and people and, visitors. I have a question that how does such projects, when they are continue to be sites of participation from all the stakeholders, and not just gradually become gated enclaves, which often happens in India? I just want to know that how
True.
are you planning it in design that it continues to be a site of equal participation for everyone?
Yes. First, when it comes to the access, before this entire design, it's not very much accessible from the surrounding areas because of the landscape in itself. So first thing I'm making it is making multiple entry points and parking areas so that people can come from all around the site and access it first safely. And I'm creating a border also for the safety of the people. And there are different types of uses for different age groups and different type of people who might have interest in coming here. Most of them are tourists. Most of them are people who might come for educational purposes, and people who of different, as mentioned, the age groups who will be coming, and which causes a continuous interaction between the site and the people, so they don't abandon the site or misuse it. When it's maintained properly, and when they feel that they belong there and there's a use which is there for them to come.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Joanna. It's a very inspiring project. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the opportunity.
Okay, Afak, we go to the next one. By the way, Afak, I also at a certain moment could not see the clock. So can you do something about it? I don't know if other jury members could, but I couldn't see the time because, okay, we are going to have the next person, Umar Naeem from Ain Shams University, Cairo, talking about a project in Lahore. Again, a first time for us because we have never had a project from Pakistan being dealt with. We have had many students from Cairo presenting things from different countries. So Umar, welcome. Please keep watch on your time, because you noticed just now with Lydia that she missed out on a lot of information because she did not stick to the time. So please plan your presentation in such a way that you come down to the core of it and talk about that. Okay. Thank you so much. Please go ahead. It's yours. The floor is yours.
Good. Good morning, everyone, and respected jurors. My thesis is titled as Beyond Green and Grey, Exploring the Socio-Environmental Dimensions of Urban Nature Transformation in Lahore, Pakistan. I focused on Lahore Canal Corridor, where road widening turned a 30-kilometer ecological corridor into high-speed mobility corridor. This thesis began with the recurring condition that in many cities across Global South, they are experiencing reduction of urban nature spaces. This loss weakens the daily interaction with nature, and over time it produces a feedback loop known as extinction of experience, where lower interaction with the nature in daily life means disconnection, less care, and further loss of urban nature spaces. Similar deterioration of gardens, but rapid densification and car-oriented growth have intensified the environmental stress, and residents face a year-round challenge of environmental crises such as extreme summer heat, monsoon flooding, and hazardous winter smog. This crisis is often linked to the green space loss. In the last 3 decades, Lahore has lost about one-third of its green footprint, while built-up area increased roughly fourfold. From this setting, I derive my central research statement that this is not only ecological loss. As green space disappear or transform, citizens are disconnected from everyday nature. At the same time, road infrastructure development projects are narrowly framed as technical intervention, which overlooks the socio-ecological needs of diverse citizen group. My research is based on three primary theoretical pillars: objective nature, which is conceptualized as a physical form of nature, and subjective nature, which is understood as experiential nature, especially people-nature relationship. And the third pillar is to examine car infrastructure development as an external driver that impacts the both. So this is the conceptual framework which illustrates that infrastructure development affects urban nature, which changes the people-nature relationship, creating both potentials and opportunities to mitigate extinction of experience. So the main research question is, to what extent does infrastructure development within the ambit of urban nature transformation impact people-nature relationship? Where I examined how urban nature forms and qualities have changed, and how people perceive and interact with urban nature, and what are the perceived impact of infrastructure development. For that, I developed a people-nature relationship framework through the indicators of perception, interaction, and values associated with urban nature experiences. And infrastructure development impacts were analyzed across ecological, spatial, and social dimensions. This research was based on single exploratory case study approach. The 30-kilometer canal, a green, blue, and gray corridor, traverses across diverse neighborhoods from low-income dense area to high-income low-density areas. The road expansion started in 1996, completed around 2018, which included about 7 meters of road widening on both sides, and while encroaching on the green areas. Interviews repeatedly linked this road expansion project to the development of housing societies that happened towards the southern edge of the canal corridor. And here we can see before and after image showing how canal transformed from a green corridor to a mobility corridor. Mixed method approach for combining qualitative and quantitative data was used. Methods were semi-structured interviews, field observation, spatial mapping, and questionnaire survey. And data was collected from March to May, and I divided 30-kilometer canal into 5 sections. Section 2 representing the low income and dense neighborhood, section 3 and 5 representing high income neighborhood and low density areas. Coming to the finding, this is the overview and structure of my finding, explaining each research questions. And these are the list of few selected findings. So first, canal's urban nature was physically reduced, and mapping shows the extensive conversion of green areas to road expansion. And at the key intersection, the ecological fragmentation point emerged in the mapping analysis. And approximately 60 acres of green space was converted into sealed surfaces, and 5,000 trees were lost. But this was not only just the loss of green. The forms and qualities of urban nature also transformed. In some location, urban nature became more curated and manicured, while in some areas it became inaccessible and completely erased. Section 2 showed the lowest provision of green spaces in the vicinity and lowest tree species, which was identified by the PHA. And this was confirmed by the citizens as well. They also perceived Section 2 as the most affected one, and Section 4 as the most ecologically rich area. 76% of the respondents recognized canal as a valuable urban nature resource, and the knowledge of biodiversity remained high. But there was a mismatch in the management. For example, respondent from section 2 showed higher preference for the ornamental plantation. Yet these were the areas with the most corroded green spaces and weakest maintenance. This result shows the contradiction between the gap in the maintenance and citizens' preferences. And Here, interaction with urban nature also showed a little bit of disparity, where Section 2 was the most active zone. Activities like swimming, intergenerational gatherings, citizen-appropriated communal spaces such as Eidgah and Jirga places. All of these activities were happening in the areas with the lowest provision of urban amenities and safe access to canal. This transact analysis shows where the ecological rich areas and public zones are overlapping and where are they overlapping with the noise, speed, and unsafe crossings. The perceived impact of road widening on urban nature are mixed, but the pattern emerged that most of the negative impacts were reported higher among the women, older respondents, and respondents from Section 2 and Section 1. In interviews, people repeatedly described the sensory disconnection, reduced accessibility, more accidents, loss of heritage trees, and women and children expressed deep security and safety issues. All of these notions impact the infrastructure development were found to be interconnected in the dimension of spatial, social, and environmental. Putting this together, infrastructure development transformed urban nature within new settlement and curated green space emerged, while liminal green spaces along the canal found to be most vulnerable. This aligns with the urban political ecology discourse that how class positionality shapes what form of urban nature is produced and for whom. The perception and interaction with urban nature are not fixed. They are shaped by urban morphology, social demographics, and provision of green spaces. That was also corroborated with these authors. People-nature relationship with canal urban nature is non-homogeneous. Authorities largely treat it as a mobility corridor, but citizens, especially from dense area, value it as a social and cultural refuge. So in that case, these liminal green spaces offer intermittent opportunity to connect with nature and have a potential of mitigating the extinction of experience. But road widening introduced new vulnerabilities, and thereby it reverses the effect and reinforces the extinction of experience. Based on the synthesis of the finding, Based on the synthesis of the finding of this research, following recommendation are drawn on the 3-point scale. First level is the site-specific scale, where the zones that are identified as ecological rich area and high interaction zones, they should be treated as the zone-based management. Second is the corridor scale. Since such urban nature spaces hold significant social and ecological value, these can be act as an ecological learning lab in collaboration with schools and universities. Third level is the planning level and procedural level. As urban areas are highly heterogeneous, road infrastructure development should respond to the local context and integrating people-nature relationship framework into planning from earlier stages, especially now when the overhead metro line is being recently proposed along the same Lahore Canal corridor. So I'll close the thesis presentation with the confirmed causal change. In turn, redefines the people-nature relationship from active engagement to passive and sometimes alienation. And as the cities like Lahore continues to grow, the interrelationship between infrastructure, people, and nature will get more complex. Therefore, it is urgent need to narrow the gap between traditional planning practices and citizen socio-ecological need so that such vernacular climate infrastructures are preserved. Thank you.
Thank you, Umar. Thank you very much. You stuck strictly to your time, but you managed to present exactly what you wanted to present. I'll turn to the jury members to see who wants to ask a question. Maybe Claudia or Ashim? Can I start with one of you?
Okay, I can ask.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll follow up.
Okay.
Umar, thank you for your presentation. The analysis was quite up to the point, and I think it was very interesting that how you highlight the political ecology discourse in, let's say, the global south. I have a very specific question. I will not get into too many details. You have highlighted that linear infrastructure within global south has the potentials to reconnect these people-nature relationships. I just want to ask you from your learnings that what would be the 3 key highlights from what you have learned here, which you can sort of transfer to, let's say, people or agencies within your cities or recommend to other places within the global south. Just 3 key skills or 3 key items which you think are the most critical to replicate this process.
Thank you very much for the question. So these linear corridors, sometimes in planning frameworks, they are considered as informal green spaces or liminal green infrastructure. But at the same time, they are being neglected but at the same time, they have the higher potential of having the biodiversity, transferring the genes from one point to another that will also sustain, enhance the biodiversity of the city. And at the same time, according to the literature and according to my research as well, these spaces have higher potential of connecting people to nature because they provide like intermittent opportunities to the people to interact with urban areas, especially in dense neighborhood, where the provision of green space is deemed to be limited because of the present development patterns. And the second thing that I would also like to highlight that canal, like specifically in the Lahore, canal carries the silt from Himalayas that are like way far from Lahore. But the potential of this, having this ecological infrastructure in the city that is connected to far-flung area in the macroecological scale. That silt is highly nutritious for the green infrastructure because it holds some certain nutrient values. So these kind of green spaces and green blue infrastructure that are present within the cities can act as a transferring from different areas. And the third would be that these linear corridor also traverses through diverse neighborhoods, so they hold the potential, like they form like a stitch line. So in my case, section 2 was low income area and section 5 and 3 were high income and gated communities, but they were connected through the canal. So these sites are not only having the potential of ecological regain, but can also connect people of different social strata and enhance the social cohesion amongst the citizens.
Claudio.
Yes. Well, thank you for your presentation. I think you really made a strong case, and I really like it. The case study base and checking the perception and the people-nature relationships. And looking at your recommendations, I'm wondering and thinking a bit loud with myself, how would I change the nature of that speed way that was created after the last intervention and transform into a much closer people-nature relationship or a green corridor with different characteristics. I did not see how you actually will change the nature of the intervention that is there. Could you give some light on your ideas?
Yeah, thank you so much, Claudia, for your question. So I have recommended one intervention that reducing the vehicular speed, but this does not mean that to actively pose speed breakers or signals. By this, I meant that this intervention should also be context specific, as I have highlighted in my research that there are few sites which are ecological sensitive zone, and there are few sites which are more public zones and public interaction zones. So by reducing the vehicular speed in ecological rich areas, we can change the pattern of or the texture of the road so that it became more porous. And this like passive strategy would reduce the speed firstly because the intervention has already been done. The road has been expanded. And in high public interaction zones, more active measures can be taken, like after some certain moments where more of the people are gathering and where we have the public transport infrastructures, there we can add a layer of active measures such as speed breakers or crossing areas. And that's also like one of my recommendation for the planning discourse, that the canal is the corridor of canal is highly heterogeneous. So now we are proposing the interventions after the implementation. These considerations should have taken like earlier, so that the road infrastructure was designed in a way to respond to the immediate context. I hope I was able to answer your question.
So you're considering the landscape design intervention. Is that what you mean?
Yes.
Okay.
landscape design information says.
Thank you.
Would you go as far as to say that one side of the canal, the vehicular traffic should be removed? Did you go that far? I
No.
mean, there is no reason why you couldn't go that far, could you? Could you not?
Yeah, in terms of hypothesizing the recommendation, that this would be very like one of the strategy to regain the ecological connectivity that we closely, like we completely put one side of canal for the ecological corridor. But as canal is diverse, like traversing through the middle of the city, so that I can show in the
It's okay.
larger
I
city
understand. It's
footprint area.
difficult. I understand. I
Yeah.
understand the difficulty, but
So
okay.
one side, blocking one side might not be the optimum solution. Now we are at the point that because according to my research, not 100% of the citizens or respondents were in the favor of having a aggressive road infrastructure or signal-free corridor. But about like 65% of the respondents were in the favor of like reducing the speed of the canal, shrinking the road space, and increasing more green areas.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Yes, the time is up. So, okay, we will stay to that. Okay. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
Can we go to the third candidate, Afaq? Sorry. No, no, but can you project that? Oh, okay. I can't read now. Okay, you're okay. Yes, that one. Thank you so much. So now we welcome a candidate from Catholic University Leuven, and we have had Supanut Odom Silaprasup. I may not be saying it rightly, but welcome and your presentation on a project in Thailand. We have had very often candidates from Catholic University Leuven in the final stage. All the same, you're most welcome. The floor is yours, Supanut.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I am Supanat Udom Silapasap. Today, I would like to present my thesis, Reconfiguring Wet Ideology, Vernacular Adaptation and Modern Engineering Along the Moon River in Thailand, Addressing the Water Crisis Under the Global Warming and Urbanization. First of all, this project is located in the Moon River Basin in the northeast of Thailand, as the largest sub-basin within the Mekong River Basin. The basin is influenced by the flow of the Moon River, which collects the water from the west and flow into the Mekong River in the east. This dynamic creates an outstanding seasonal floodplain along the Moon River. Particularly the lower part of the Moon River Basin illustrates how the river plays a vital role in shaping both landscape and settlement, responding to topography and seasonality. This led to the selection area of a study area in the boundary of 24 by 18 kilometers, highlighting the relationship between seasonal floodplain and settlement. In the path to a wet ideology, floodplain were preserved from the seasonal flooding and settlement were built on a high ground. However, urbanization introduced modern infrastructure, driven by a dry ideology, leading to the conflict between natural landscape and development. This tension has become visible over the past 30 years of flooding, and it is expected to intensify due to the global warming in the upcoming future. So today the question is no longer whether city will resist the water, but how they will live with it, and how can the city integrate wet and dry approach as an innovative design to live with this condition. So to answer this question, The analysis select a critical area from 24 by 18 kilometer and zoom into the scale of 9 by 6 kilometer using the 6 different maps to show the transformation from wet to dry ideology over the time. First, a geomorphology maps surveyed by the geomorphologists clearly show how topography and the river shape the seasonal floodplain landscape that reflect in the pattern of water-based settlement, and also the first urbanization still follow the logic of the water and landscape. However, today the city had expanded into the seasonal floodplain through the built-up area and massive infrastructure. This DAI approach will continue through the public and private project in upcoming future. Furthermore, according to the prediction of 2115, future development is clearly in conflict with the risk of the flooding. So to better understand the transformation from wet to dry approach, the analysis overlaid 3 different maps in 9 by 6 kilometer territory and proposed a few work sites that were selected 15 square, each measuring 400 by 400 meter. 7 blue square represent all settlements that still exist today. Meanwhile, 8 red squares show city development on the seasonal floodplain. So in this presentation, 2 outstanding squares have been selected to represent the wet and dry approach. On the one hand, the blue square represents the wet ideology as a water-based settlement from the past that still exists today. Along the riverfront, the settlement maintains and also housing typology. The area will clearly show how the settlement still rely on the river as a part of its living system. On the other hand, the red square represents modern development. New massive housing typology were built directly on the seasonal floodplain, transforming floodplain as a public space into the private property. So the dry approach clearly shows in this area view with the massive infrastructure that driving the city development. So across the multiple scales of analysis, there is a clear conflict between landscape and urban development today. Urbanization will continue alongside increasing risk from the global warming. This leads to the design strategy based on hybrid approach, integrating wet and dry approach as a water-based urbanism, where water and landscape become the foundation for shaping new form of urbanism. So the design begins with the water and urbanism to understand the 2 different systems. In the past, water and landscape shaped the logic of the settlement. But today, the territory of the water has decreased and replaced by the new modern infrastructure. Also, area within the seasonal floodplain will be increasingly impacted by future floods. Consequently, by overlaying past, present, and future conditions, the base map for the design becomes with the 6 different landscape typology in relation to water and landscape. This typology including higher and lower ground conditions, creating an adaptive framework for new water-based urbanism within the existing landscape structure. On a higher ground, a riverfront neglect creates a soft-edge landscape, integrating flood-adapted space while accommodating high-density development along the neglect. An urban spawn introduces a network of permeable landscape within the existing urban fabric, allowing water to be absorbed and stored. Perpendicular dike intersect the river, creating strip forest and development that work with the existing dike structure to manage the water flow. Along the river, parallel dikes are developed but only on the existing dike, allowing new urban fabric to develop, while the floodplain on the riverside is maintained for the natural flood function. Moving to the lower ground, the floodplain ridge creates the amphibian landscape, while proposing dispersal development along the ridge. At the same time, the riverfront ridge built upon the traditional settlement, reinforcing local adaptation to seasonal flooding. As a result, the proposal combines 6 different landscape and new development typology. This approach reflects the logic of the water and landscape to frame a new form of urban. Particularly, the design accommodates worst-case flood scenario, allowing flexibility and transformation across the different water levels. Hybrid when translated into urbanism is expressed through the typology that transforms existing structure into a variety of landscape and development typology. In addition, hybridity drives into the detail, where architecture and landscape work as a one system, merging the Thai vernacular knowledge with the soft modern engineering, understanding natural dynamics while accommodating the urban growth. So by layering vernacular knowledge and engineering logics, The project also proposed adaptive framework for upcoming future. It offers elasticity during the wet season, allowing the city to adjust and respond to the water fluctuation. So, in conclusion, this thesis clearly challenged the dominant dry ideology and offer a research and design-driven alternative for future urban development. By reconfiguring wet ideology, the project introduced hybridity with water-based urbanism approach that integrate tradition with technology, local memory with the future climate protection. By living with the water rather than against it, cities around the world can shift from the resistance to adaptation, responding to the global warming and urbanization in the upcoming future. So, thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. Very interesting.
Yes.
Which of the jury members, maybe Ashim, would you like, because this is water and land, something which you would like to prop, I'm sure. But I'm sure all of us have a question. So you please go ahead if you have one. Ashim?
Yes, sorry, I
Do
was
you have
unmuted.
anything? If you
Yes,
don't?
I will just ask a small question.
Yes.
Thank you so much for your presentation. I think it was quite extensively elaborated and very well explained. I think the analysis and the presentation drawings were quite clear for me. So my question is that you want to challenge the predominant dry ideology, which is often used by, let's say, the dry experts like engineers, transport planners, and often even planners who like to deal with it. My question is that we have certain existing tools which we continue to use, how we design our cities. So how can you modify or reconfigure these existing tools so that you can carry on or translate your dry ideology so that it can be quickly adapted by planning authorities or design bodies or developers or planning agencies? Yeah, that's my question.
Yeah. So thank you for the question. So for for my approach for the thesis, I approach in the wet and dry ideology that we cannot say that we cannot stop the urbanization and also we cannot stop the global warming. So the way that I ask the question and answer the question is about how can we adapt the existing dry ideology that already used such as the dike or the road, and then how can we shape the development in the upcoming future that rely on the data of the climate projection and also can provide the developer to develop, but develop in the right way, not in the wrong way. Because many cities around the world, especially in the Southeast Asia, they just have the approach like the dry engineering that they can fill the land, they can build anything, but they haven't care about the dynamic of the nature. So my thesis is just about address the how can we combine two approach and live with the condition in the future. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Claudia or Liesel? Otherwise, I'll have a question.
Yes.
Yeah, I have a question.
I have a
So please,
question.
both go ahead.
Okay. Yes, thank you for your presentation and the clear explanation of your thoughts and your thesis. Obviously, you're looking at new developments, and you suggest a number of strategies. And I was wondering, which of these strategies do you think are the most, could you apply to existing situations where cities have already built according to the dry development method? Which of your strategies could you use to sort of transform already executed dry developments and change them into more hybrid developments?
Yes, thank you for the question. So I think the most potential strategy that can apply right now in the city development of Ubon Ratchathani is about the area along the river edge that is a higher ground. That the strategy can approach how to develop the edge of the city related in relation to the water fluctuation, and also how can limit the development along the city edge that we can control. That I think the strategy can provide can provide the option. For example, the high-rise development that we can develop along the edge, maybe it's my function rather than the develop in the low rise with the high density. And also the existing public park in the city, especially in the higher ground, that we can still connect as a green and blue infrastructure to provide the urban spawn.
Okay, thank you.
Claudio?
Yes. Living with water. I think your topic is really on, considering the intensity and regularity of big climate events that is bringing quite a lot of water, despite the fact that in some parts we have less water. But it goes in the direction of Liz's question, and I have two small questions. One is, did you look some cases of cities that actually adopt the policy and strategy in living with city, and if you could, as you did your research on how they dealt with it and how it inspired you, and also the issue of adaptation and mitigation to, let's say, increasing water and living with water. What is that is fundamental for you of more water coming in different ways?
Yeah, for the first question, yeah, I have studied a lot of case study around the world because I'm studying in the Belgium. I study a case, for example, in Copenhagen, that they live with the condition of the sea level and the storm water, and also the case in the Asia, especially in China, about the urban spawned by Turenscape Gongjianyu, that I learned a lot from those cases and adapt to the context of the Thailand, that which is located in the monsoon climate, that we deal with the dynamic of the water. So this is the first question. So again, for the second question, could you repeat it again?
Yeah, what is for you fundamental in this adaptation and mitigation to increasing quantity of water of cities that are already there?
Yeah, I think the point is about how to understand the past, and then how to understand the present and understand the future. As my analysis, I went to the area that people who live in this area more than 50 years, they have a adaptive way, like the indigenous or vernacular knowledge to live with the water. And then when the new development comes, some development just ignore that. But I think merging both wet and dry as an adaptive way, I think is might useful. And then I believe that it can adapt to the city. It depends on who can integrate that. My approach is not just a top-down approach, but it's also integrate the bottom-down and then can combine it together.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, time, yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
I will pose my question separately, maybe. That's okay. We'll have the next person to present now. Afaq, can you show the slide of the next person? Rishabh Paul from Goa College of Architecture. I think for the first time we are getting somebody from Goa College of Architecture in the shortlisted. Please don't, Afaq. Okay. And I think also the first time that somebody is going to talk about artificial intelligence and how to use it. So we found as jury members an interesting topic to also use it. So Rishabh, please, the floor is yours.
Good morning and good afternoon. My name is Rishabh, and I'm from Panjim, Goa. Today, I'm going to present my thesis, Urban Design in the Age of Artificial Intelligence. Urban design emerged as a formal discipline in the 1950s. It is a modern discipline, but an ancient practice. Urban form has evolved through shifts in power, economy, and mobility, from military and trade-based cities to car-dominated modernism. The most severe rupture occurred in the mid-20th century when modernist ideology and the automobile disconnected cities from human-scale urban life. The internet also altered. Today, AI marks a new shift, not of form, but of decision-making at scale. Urban design has always been balanced intuition and structure, which is under pressure. Cultural memory on one side, pattern recognition on the other, both powerful, both incomplete alone. The central question which drove my research, how can human as central decision maker collaborate with AI, which is informed by history to shape future cities into collage cities? Collage teaches us that meaning is not fixed. It depends on interpretation. Collage City was written as a critique of modernism's obsession with total design. It argues for cities as collages of fragments from different times, logics, and intentions. Imagine a year in 1980. Few years after Collage City was written, a student imagines the perfect city. Using figure ground cutouts of places they have lived, they layer fragments together. Collage as an architectural act of visual thinking. As an urban designer, this imagined city is translated into drawings. Plots are defined, densities tested, and controls negotiated. Today, AI accelerates this same process. What was once a physical exercise can now be prompted into visual thinking across multiple media. To explore this idea, I have developed a framework inspired by autonomous vehicles. Just as self-driving cars have levels of automation, I propose similar levels for AI in urban design. The urban design automation spectrum ranges from level 0, traditional design, pure human creativity with no AI assistance, level 1, AI-assisted design, level 2, AI co-processing, level 3, human-guided AI design. AI proposes complete design solutions based on historical patterns, but human designers direct and refine these proposals. To level 5, autonomous urban design, a hypothetical scenario where AI would autonomously plan environments. I do not propose AI as an author. I propose human-in-the-loop framework. Creativity is not computation. It emerges from memory, embodiment, and hesitation. AI can assist memory, but it cannot replace embodied judgment. If AI is to assist design, it must be taught. Documentation becomes the ethical boundary. I documented Saint Sebastian Precinct in Fontainebleau, Panjim, a historical site, not as nostalgia, but as a repository of tested urban intelligence. Human documentation encodes spatial memory, enclosures, thresholds, gradients. This is what the AI is trained on. From human documentation at the historic precinct, the AI internalizes human scale. It was uploaded to ChatGPT-4 for this analysis. It learned 5 key spatial logics. It identified the chapel as both a geometric and social center, a mature vegetation as a privacy screen and climate moderator, and a small junction widening as microplazas that break long streets. Panjim is not a tabula rasa city. Panjim is a layered city combining a colonial urban core with surrounding semi-urban villages, resulting in walkable mixed-use neighborhoods and strong cultural continuity. The Patto housing precinct is a low-rise residential area located between the historic core and the newer commercial developments and is currently under significant development pressure. This structure plan shifts Panjim from a vehicle-led to a people-centered city. The Mandovi River becomes the civic spine linking major transport hubs to heritage areas and public spaces through a continued walkable network. Traffic is pushed to the periphery, and instead of a single grand gesture, Panjim evolves as a collage of small civic nodes, where past, present, and future coexist. I've used various AI tools during my thesis. I quickly analyzed Panjim's site through the lens of the 15-minute city concept. It helped map out how accessible key amenities are and reveal what we have already scored strongly. While Cider AI, I unlocked speculative imagination by generating rapid visual what-if scenarios for Panjim. It allowed me to visualize possibilities. Hector AI let us input familiar parameters like FAR, setback, and height limits, and generated multiple massing options. It works systematically laying out grids, parking, footprints, and heights. While efficient and thorough, it prioritized functional planning, leaving creative decisions to us. Hector independently produced low-rise courtyard layouts similar to those in the San Sebastian precinct. Despite not being trained on that historical data, the alignment suggested context-sensitive outcomes, which gave me the confidence to pursue those options further. The proposed plan is structured around perimeter block with shared courtyards, supporting active streets and collective life. A permeable grid, colonnades, and pedestrian links prioritizes movement on foot, while active ground floors and strong corners animate the public realm. Public space and mixed uses work together to create everyday social life. The street elevation shows how the design maintains a human scale blocks inspired by Montaigne while accommodating contemporary. The outcome is not a smart city. It is a negotiated city. To conclude, this thesis positions AI not as an author of cities, but as collaborator in shaping public infrastructure and public space. When guided by human judgment and historical knowledge, AI can support plural, walkable, and inclusive urban environments. Read through the lens of Collage City, the future city is not optimized or autonomous. It is negotiated, where infrastructure serves people, memory, and everyday life. Thank you.
Thank you, Rishabh. I'm looking at the jury members, if one of them has a question to ask. Ashim, you're probably working in a practice where you are also using artificial intelligence, or otherwise I'll ask a question if I may.
Yeah.
Yeah. Rishabh, I'm
I can't hear you. Hello.
Can't hear you either.
Can you try to explain to me how
Shyam, I
this
lost you.
the last
Shyam, I
neighborhood
lost you. I
evolved
couldn't hear
from
you.
where, and what were the...
I'm sorry, but I couldn't hear you. Yeah.
Sorry.
Can you please repeat?
Okay. Can you hear me
Yes, I
now?
can.
Yes.
Rishabh?
Yes, I can.
Yes. This last neighborhood, can you just take us through the logic of how you came to this
I heard you till if I could take you to the logic.
Oh goodness, there's something wrong with me. Yeah, can you explain to me how you came to this design and which were the prompts which you gave to the artificial intelligence to get you to this? What had you asked?
All right, great. So I'll go move a slide before this. I mean, my whole semester, I was trying to understand how AI could possibly be used in doing urban design. But at the same time, understanding this designer's dilemma that, probably we have a better understanding. So it was not a direct, I would say, prompt which led me to that. But say when I used Hector AI, and that sort of gave me these options, which you saw on the right-hand side. And at the same time, I was doing this collage exercise with Panjim City. So what I did was I knew of public spaces in Panjim City which work well, which are popular. I'm a resident here for the last few years. And then I tried to sort of validate the options being generated by AI and the ones that were there. And once that match happened, I knew that it just say I had a crit session, it was a quick crit session where I could run through various options. I knew what could work, what would not work. Those are, let's say, just my prejudices or my learnings after all. And then I used all of those learnings. But my model for this one is essentially based on the San Sebastian Chapel. So I almost, you could say, did a collage exercise of copying the grade, maintaining the scale of the, the street, obviously trying to accommodate more. So maybe going up to G+2 at some places. so that the density could be sort of accommodated. I hope this answers your question.
Can I come in?
Yes, please.
Yeah, thank you for your presentation. I think it's you mentioned that we need to teach AI to behave in the way we expect them to behave to bring us the best of the options to a particular problem. So I think you demonstrating that there is no way back once we start mastering more and more of the tool. So I would like you to elaborate a bit. What is the limitations and the risks that you find while exercising to come to this product based on the parameters that you showed us, livability, more scale, etc., accessibility. So what's the limitation and the risks that it brings with it for the outcome?
Okay, thank you for your question. So I'm going to first try and sort of break this idea of, explain the idea of tool. Tool as something which is a tangible tool versus, in this case, it's like an intangible tool. And this tool is just like an extension of a human brain. Now, the risks with AI currently is there's a lot of noise. So one has to filter through all of that. Number one. Number two, the data, the quality of data that one has. In the context of India, the open source OpenStreetMaps are not well, I would say, updated. In case of Panjim, it was so I could do this particular analysis and say move quickly. So that could possibly lead to oversimplification of things. So while therefore I'm saying that the data set needs to be very well trained, then let's look at this sort of a exercise here. I mean, in tools of a person like a student, I would say it's a fun exercise. But imagine if it goes, and the kind of governments we have these days, somebody ends up with this sort of a tool and suddenly says, oh, look, you're going to design the city right away, not even giving it much thought. So the risks are obvious, I mean, I would say. And then again, coming to where I was, so it's not like a holistic thing, right? They're like a collection of things, a collage of all these little, all the available tools which were there. And in this case, again, I would say that, well, there are no curves, there are no, it just probably helps understanding the massing exercise. So, yeah, I hope I've answered your question.
Yeah, partly, but it's a dynamic process of mastering, and I think you showed the prompt as a fundamental, let's say, tool to interact with this tool, and yeah, it's quite promising, and we will have a lot of questions and not sufficient answers in the shortcoming period. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Rishabh.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll move now to the fifth and the last presentation before there is the break. So now we have Abiral Buju from the University of Stuttgart in Germany, but he'll be talking about a project in Namibia, a totally different sort of project than the artificial intelligence we dealt with. Abiral, please, the floor is yours.
Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. I'm Abiral, and my thesis explores how local knowledge and community perspectives can inform sustainable riverside designs in Windhoek, Namibia, a city where dry riverbeds, also known locally as Omrambo, shape both ecological and social identity. Urban rivers are increasingly recognized as nature-based solutions for climate resilience, biodiversity, and public spaces, but are often overlooked in the global south. In Windhoek, as mentioned before, these rivers are ephemeral, which means that they are dry for most of the year, yet they still hold significant ecological and social value. At the same time, these river systems also mirror apartheid era spatial divisions, which physically separates eastern affluent neighborhoods to the marginalized western areas. Despite their potentials, they remain marginal in formal urban planning and are seen as unsafe or even irrelevant. As you can see, the strong contrast between dry and wet seasons play a key role in how these rivers are perceived and used. As they are often dry, these rivers are often seen as temporary or expendable spaces rather than a permanent component of the urban landscape. Here is a map of Windhoek showing the Aribush and the Klein Windhoek rivers, the two rivers I did my research on across the various neighborhoods that they cut through. Most existing studies on Windhoek's river treat them primarily as technical infrastructure, focusing more on flood control, waste management, water management, and environment performance. What is largely missing are the social and cultural dimensions of these river systems, about how residents use them in everyday life and what they represent in terms of identity, access, and safety. While global research is increasingly emphasizing the need of community participation and local knowledge in sustainable urban design, this perspective remains largely absent in Windhoek's planning, which leads to my central research question of how does community perspectives and local knowledge influence the design, management, and future development of river systems in Windhoek. Sub-questions also explored usage patterns, community aspirations, and how traditional or local knowledge can inform to sustainable planning. Research objectives included documenting and analyzing community perspectives, identifying key themes and local practices, assessing the potential role of community engagement, and developing a set of recommendations and a preliminary framework for inclusive participatory design. Heading on to the methodology, given the interdisciplinary nature of the research and the need to balance out environment, spatial, and social considerations, a mixed methods approach combining qualitative and quantitative methods was used. Data collection included surveys, semi-structured interviews, focus group discussions, and on-site observations throughout different neighborhoods across the Aribush and the Klein Windhoek River. A preliminary findings presentation was also held at the end of the research period, which allowed for the triangulation of data from multiple sources, enhancing both the depth and validity of the findings. Moving on to the findings, three key findings emerged from the research. First, rivers play a very different roles across the neighborhoods, ranging from informal pathways and gathered spaces to neglected or avoided areas. Second, across all communities, there is strong ecological concern and awareness of the river's environmental importance. And third, that residents consistently expressed a desire to be meaningfully involved in future river planning and decision-making processes, however big or small that may be. So there's a quick summary of the typology of the communities that I researched on. So for an overview, these rivers function as pathways, gathering spaces, dumping sites, or avoided zones depending on the neighborhood context, but yet all these communities are largely excluded from formal planning. Inequality is shaping experience, safety, access, and maintenance vary strongly between informal, low-income, and high-income areas. Local knowledge everywhere, from environmental awareness to everyday practices, are present in all community types, but they remain recognized in formal planning. A quick overview of the informal settlements, the low-income formal settlements, neighborhoods, and the high-income suburbs. So, three interconnected themes structure the findings: social inclusion, environmental sustainability, and economical opportunity. Windhoek's river mirror social inequalities across the city. While some city residents use them for walking or gathering, others, particularly women and young people, feel unsafe. Achieving social sustainability means that creating rivers that foster belonging, safety, and shared ownership. Communities want to be genuine partners in co-design and ensure that it reflects their identity and daily realities. Although these rivers are mostly died, they are still vital ecological systems. Residents value their role, and local ecological knowledge also offers insight into restoration and climate adaptation. For many residents, these rivers also provide informal livelihoods through informal markets. At the same time, people in low-income areas often have no reliable waste disposal services, leading them to use these riverbeds as dumping areas. Integrating better waste management and livelihood opportunities can reduce pollution while strengthening local economies. Like a Namibian pokepot, which is illustrated in the diagram, urban sustainability here rests on three legs of social inclusion, environmental sustainability, and economic opportunity, and the balance between them determines whether the city's rivers can truly stand. So these findings suggest three key implications for urban design. Firstly, rivers should be treated as everyday social ecological spaces, not as vacant, leftover, or neglected land. Secondly, river design must actively address spatial inequality, particularly in underserved neighborhoods. There should not be a one-shoe-fits-all standard. And thirdly, urban design should be understood as an ongoing participatory process rather than a finished product. Some recommendations include prioritizing low impact green infrastructure, embedding community participation, supporting informal livelihoods, aligning river projects with other broader urban strategies, and integrating safety, access, and maintenance from the beginning. This led to the framework for community engagement. Existing participatory processes are often procedural, extractive, and disconnected from realities. In response, the engagement framework suggests uh, uh, in Windhoek's lived realities and institutional constraints, structures around four principles of inclusivity, continuity, co-production, and accountability. For further research, building on this thesis, the next phase of the research would ideally be expanding participation and feedback loops around all neighborhoods in Windhoek and preparing the groundwork for a small pilot project revitalization area. The focus is not immediate construction, but the development of institutional, financial, and participatory foundations that can support implementation and future scaling across Windhoek's wider river systems. While there are a lot of things I can reflect upon, one key insight from the research is that participation is not automatically inclusive. True inclusion requires a redistribution of power in decision making, and ultimately, the research shows that community knowledge is not an addition to urban design, but is also its foundation. I'd like to conclude by appropriating a political slogan from the disability rights movement, asserting that decision affecting people should not be made without their direct, full participation and input. Hence, nothing about us without us. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation, Abiral. Any of the jury members? Liesel, you would like to have a question? Go at it. Close to South Africa. Maybe in terms of topic, it's not exactly what, but would you like to take a chance?
Yeah, I don't have a question, but
you
thank
don't
you
have a
for thank you for your presentation. And actually, it's very recognizable, that rivers are in between spaces in cities and often not recognized as, yeah, they can't be, at the moment they're not treated as proper green urban areas, and there is a lot of potential in in treating these areas as such. And I think your thesis sort of shows how you can go about it, and also to be more inclusive with people who live there. So thank you for the presentation.
Claudio, or
yes, I think you have a very well-structured study, and I really appreciated your presentation as well by showing us your multiple methods to come to the information data and the way you analyzed and including the perception in the different typologies of communities. I have two questions and something before my questions that I really like that you put there from paper to ground. So the idea that you thought about how do I bring this to some follow-up action about producing the knowledge that you produce through your research. So you mentioned the adaptive design related to community engagement. Could you elaborate what do you mean by adaptive design, and how does it respond to the findings of your research?
Thank you for the question. So adaptive design in my case would be that even though it's within a city itself, the river has, like I mentioned before, like different typologies of neighborhoods. And the design based on a certain part of the river should be based around the neighborhood itself. Like there should not be a single design that should be copy pasted throughout the entire river. For example, someone who lives in the informal settlements, they would require the river areas to be cleaned and basically serviced before it can be inhabitable, because right now it's mostly a dumping zone with biohazards and lots of cases of diseases spreading, while someone living in the uh, eastern side is more of a high affluent neighborhood. These people, they move recreational purposes such as jogging and running. So everyone has their own priorities, and it would be proper if the planning around these designs would be appropriated according to the neighborhood that they are serving, rather than giving a same design across the entire area. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Yep, please.
Okay. Thank you for your presentation, Abiral. This is a very relevant topic from the aspect of how, there are these bottom-up movements which can claim our commons and also highlight that, the community stewardship is a way forward to deal with this. My question will be a bit precise. You talked about a lot of good recommendations, and you highlighted that you would like to take a possible pilot. So if given a chance that someone says that you couldn't do this, would be your threshold size? Like for example, how many families or what size of a settlement or of how long a stretch of the river would you like to take to uh, basically execute the adaptive design, or possibly like a test case for everyone within the city to see that okay, yes, this is possible and we should scale it up within the city. So that's my question.
Thank you for the question. There was actually a site in the river which I was fortunate to visit. It's called the UN Park. So it's basically one of the only urban parks around these rivers. And I would like to appropriate the same size if I do any sort of test project. It's around less than a kilometer, around I think 750 meters in length, the entire stretch of the park, which is connected to the river. And I feel that would be an appropriate size for a pilot project. The participants doesn't necessarily only have to be the people living around it. It can be people who venture through those rivers as well. So it doesn't necessarily have to be permanent residents of the area. It can be people who are using those rivers as their daily means of transportation as well. So that would be the scale, I would guess. And of course, it will be hard to conduct without the support of the city itself. So I guess that would be also necessary to include the city for the pilot project. So that would be the potential scale of what I would like to invest in a pilot project.
Thank you.
I have one question, Abiral. The recommendations you came with, they're fine, but have you found cities in the global south where such recommendations have actually been used?
I had done some. Yep. Sorry. Was that the entire question?
Yes.
Sorry. Yeah. So I did some research regarding potential, similar projects. One called Wadi Hanifa in Saudi Arabia, and there's a Juksai River project in South Africa as well. These projects are a bit more urban, or like they're more related overall to the bigger urban planning, but I couldn't find a direct one which includes a strong level of co-production in river planning. So I guess that's also one of the things that I would still have to look for in future research. Yep.
Okay. Thank you. The time is up. So thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
And I think now we will take a 15-minute break, right? Afak? Okay, so we will see the next presentation 15 minutes from now, and look forward to that.
The Netherlands-based charity foundation DAIDA has been doing its bit to bring about a change. Its stated mission is to improve the living conditions for those at the lower end of the pyramid in cities of the developing countries. In an attempt to incentivize potential future change leaders to start thinking about the need and the means to make cities sustainable, inclusive, and livable for all, it has instituted a global urban thesis award. The idea is to encourage master's students from around the world to think beyond the standard topics for their academic dissertations and take one step towards changing the world.
The primary reason for DAIDA Awards is simply young people, to nudge them to think about issues which are really relevant for the society, instead of just get their degrees.
What I always find very inspiring about the entries is how young people are so socially engaged in what is happening in the world. I think when I had just graduated, I was completely focused on design. I was only thinking about what does my design look like. And I find it very heartening to see that young people nowadays also have a very good social, they're also considered with the impact and what the social values are of their thesis, which I find very inspiring.
How does it work? The competition is open for any master's student in architecture, design, psychology, town planning, or any subject related to the urban environmental landscape. Universities around the world can apply via the global knowledge platform, My Livable City, and select a handful of the best theses from students in their institutes to participate in the DAIDA competition. The topic for each year is selected by the DAIDA jury and board, and is always socially and environmentally relevant to the countries of the emerging economies. In the past, the themes have been water and urban development, inclusive cities, designing for climate change and addressing minorities.
So the theme when I participated in the DAIDA competition was Cities for All, Addressing Minorities. It was appealing for me because it aligned perfectly with my academic research during my master's, as well as my ongoing professional work in India, where I focus on affordable housing or low-income housing. I interpreted the theme of Cities for All, Addressing Minorities from the lens of cities for economic minorities and housing justice. My focus was on the city of New Delhi in India.
When given a particular theme, students are free to interpret it, relying on their own upbringing, life, and work experience.
The lens through which the students, either from their background of the specialization that they're doing, they look at it, the cities they choose can be very different. So for example, our theme of minorities, somebody talked about children, while somebody else talked about women, somebody else talked about widows.
It was actually my tutors who recommended me to put my thesis forwards for this competition. So the theme that year was the inclusive city, and actually it was really relevant to our studio project at the time. problem we were dealing with was a result of, housing crisis in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. And the background of that is that there was mass rural to urban migration, and the response from the government was to create condominium housing to house everybody, thus creating quite an uninclusive, kind of very homogenous approach.
This award is open to students of participating universities and educational institutes from all over the world. In the past, they have presented solutions for cities in Egypt, Tunisia, South Africa, Ethiopia, and Kenya in Africa, to India, Bangladesh, Philippines, and Oman in Asia, as well as Ecuador, Colombia, Brazil, Paraguay, and Argentina in South America. The students in the universities themselves come from various countries, making this a truly international and diverse competition.
My thesis was focused on children, their behavior, and how our cities can influence their growth. And unfortunately, according to studies, children are one of the marginalized groups that are not considered while designing cities. I addressed the impact of the physical characteristics of streets on children's independent mobility in new cities, especially in New Cairo in Egypt. So one of DAIDA's objectives is to help students implement their projects in their countries. So this was one of the reasons that encouraged me to apply for the DAIDA competition, that I would be able to implement the interventions based on my thesis in the neighborhood that was in my case study.
One piece of feedback I received was around the need to generate stronger urban design guidelines for the proposal. So the degree that I was studying at the time had a design component, but it was more focused on the social and economic and political lens of urban planning. So after I received that feedback, I took an urban design short course, and I'm considering studying further in the urban design space to deepen my understanding of design and potentially use that to enhance the proposal. And my thesis work and the award has placed me in a leadership position in NGO, where I'm currently leading the food systems and food security related projects, which relates directly to my thesis, which looked at food systems and urban food security.
The jury shortlists 10 to 12 candidates who then present their thesis in an online awards ceremony, along with other participants and the professors who nominated them. Participating in a recognized international competition brings students the opportunity to interact with expert jurors and industry veterans, learn from peers all over the world, while defending their ideas on an international stage.
I think what one must remember is that even if you have a very good thesis that's well written, that has a good solution, that has a good argument, even then the thesis may not stand out enough, because we also look at the way that the thesis is presented and how you tell your story. What we have found is that just by reading it, we have thought, oh, it's a good thesis, but it's not excellent. When the jury has the presentation, and the presentation is really good, then we judge that thesis also on a higher level. While the opposite is also true, that sometimes we have a very well-written thesis, but the presentation and the explanation of the thesis at the presentation is not so good, then we judge it slightly less. So it's really important how you tell your story.
It's a learning for students like me who come from India, a developing country, to see presentations of from some really polished colleges, and the way they present their work. So it's a learning. So it's always the exposure that DAIDA brings to the table.
DAIDA is currently supporting projects in India, Thailand, Philippines, Somalia, Kenya, Zimbabwe, Peru, and Egypt. Its board members comprise architects, development economists, management, housing, and real estate consultants, as well as urban planners. So, what does participating and winning the DAIDA competition bring? For one, a substantial cash prize, which is often the incentive for further research. Besides the cash prizes, the jury may also award special prizes to ideas that are scalable, and winners can start further researching and implementing their solutions.
The scale is different, but the creativity, the solutions, the analysis, they have to demonstrate that they're able to provide us with a sound solution and analysis. The award is actually evolving, and we see more and more very interesting entries from different universities and faculties. Obviously, that it requires an additional work of those submitting their thesis and their design work and their research work to the DAIDA award. I see the future with good perspectives.
I think that every student, winner or not winner, had added value about the big problems of this earth. And this problem about urban cities, this problem about diversity, this problem about the climate change. So I think that everyone has so much to tell and so much to think about it, that they are the young generation who have to be responsible for.
Participation is free for universities who can select the top master's theses that are relevant to this year's theme. Participating universities can email academy@mylivablecity.com to know more. For now, let's hear it from some of the previous winners.
My name is Tessa Chittenden. I'm based in the city of Cape Town. I won second prize in the DAIDA Awards in 2022. The reason I got my current job was partly because of my success in the awards. And it's also a great opportunity to receive feedback on your thesis from a world-class panel of experts so that you can really deepen the strength of your thesis proposal.
Hi, I'm Myrna Labib. I'm winner of DAIDA Awards in 2023. Since winning it, and have been more focused on my research topic from different perspectives that were presented to me by the jurors during the competition. You should participate in the DAIDA Award because implementing your project on ground, in addition to the possibility of your next research idea, could be right around the corner.
Hi, I'm Zubing Shir, and I was a winner in the DAIDA competition in 2021. I now work in London in Foster & Partners, and I fully recommend you to participate in the DAIDA competition because as a student coming out of university, I think it's super important wherever you may be afterwards to continue your fascinations that you had at university. And to continue exploring your area of interest, and to always keep sort of your ideas and convictions at the back of your mind throughout the rest of your lives.
I am Girisha Sethi. I received the DAIDA Foundation Award in the year 2023-24. As somebody who's been fortunate to receive the DAIDA Award, I'd encourage students and graduates of architecture, urban planning, and associated fields to participate in the DAIDA competition, as it is a wonderful, generous platform that not only recognizes and awards work that address critical issues in the field, but also promotes it at an international level.
Hi, this is architect Gauri Satam from Mumbai, India. I am the winner of DAIDA Awards 2021. The awards has definitely helped me in understanding that we as architects could contribute a lot to these urban problems through some participatory and inclusive planning alongside the locals, and giving some very specific solutions which are more practical with the help of these locals.
What would it take to make your city more livable? Cleaner air and water? People-friendly infrastructure? Waste management? Certainly. And safety and security. Welcome to our world of My Livable City. Since 2014, we have been working to inform, inspire, and educate people about the creation of livable cities. We started as a journal in India and today have grown to be a global knowledge platform and think tank through print publications, digital content, workshops, training seminars, ground activations, international partnerships, and so on. Founded and steered by Sashikala Venkatraman, city lover and management advisor, and Sham Khandekar, a veteran international urban designer, our MLC journey has been supported by a worldwide team of top professionals in design, environment, planning, policy, and marketing. There is still more work to be done, and our next generation of leaders will show the way. You too can join in and make a difference. If you believe that walkable and cyclable streets and green spaces need to be inclusive, we want to hear your thoughts. If you're tired of labels like affordable housing, but would like to see equitable cities, we'll show you successful global examples. We are growing and evolving. And if you have an opinion, an idea, a case study that you want to share, reach out to us. Together we can create the cities that we want to live in.
Welcome back. Good afternoon. Now we'll start on the next session of 4 presentations. And we start with Cristina Sudiono from the Delft University of Technology in Netherlands, and of a project again of a totally different sort based in Bangladesh. Cristina, 8 minutes for you. I presume you have followed the earlier presentation, so you know we stay strictly to the time. Welcome.
Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to begin by thanking the jury for this opportunity to present my thesis, which is titled Built on Shapeshifting Land, a Transition Towards Amphibious Living. So the central objective of this research was to establish a viable framework for communities in developing economies that are increasingly exposed and particularly vulnerable to climate-related events. Across the globe, communities are confronting increasing uncertainty as a result of the ongoing climate crisis, with its impacts disproportionately affecting the most vulnerable of populations. Significant infrastructure disparities persist, particularly among communities situated in low-lying, flood-prone regions, where access to those essential systems that support the health and well-being is limited or entirely absent, some of which are depicted. So the research investigates adaptive spatial and infrastructural strategies with the hope of establishing a transferable framework that may serve as a prototype for facilitating community transitions in flood-affected regions worldwide. Our studio site visit took place in Bangladesh, a country on the front lines of the global climate crisis, where flooding events are becoming increasingly frequent and destructive. My research focused on a small community in the city of Sylhet, the Shonantala community, selected for several key reasons. They faced great devastation in their life, their belongings, as well as the community gradually being absorbed into the expanding urban fabric. So with a deeper understanding of the local social spatial organizations, cultural practices, and settlement patterns, these insights informed and guided the project's design strategies and the development of an adaptive framework. So my proposal was centered around this question, with themes such as community building and public engagement as central to be addressed throughout. So the proposal is structured around the raft as a primary organizing element. It operates as a connective system between the individual dwelling and then the broader urban scale and master plan. It was conceived as a modular infrastructure, so the raft can accommodate varying numbers of dwellings, allowing for scalability and adaptability. At this moment, I took a step back because it was important for the viability of the project to really understand what the right size for this raft would be. So I began researching Dunbar's theory of social scales, which ultimately led to the raft being able to accommodate approximately 150 individuals within 15 homes, as well as a flexible communal space, in this case, a livestock pen, and that resembles the upper limits of identified social stable networks that one may have. Within this larger structure, clusters of 4 dwellings correspond to a secondary social scale of approximately 50 individuals, which is associated with closer social relationships. These 2 social scales generate distinct communal and public spaces. At the cluster level, you have shared courtyards that support daily activities such as cooking, it could be social interactions or domestic labor. And then at the collective level, the full raft accommodates a larger communal space and shared infrastructure, which is intended for various activities such as festivals or weekly markets. It reinforces the social cohesion across the broader community. And then quickly zooming into the dwelling, the theme of community was realized here through provisions for residents to adapt the front portion of their homes into semi-public and small-scale commercial spaces. These could be tea stalls, workshops for pottery or wood, a practice which was common within the regional cultural context as it supports household level income. And then to further support the community's resilience, the proposal integrates essential infrastructural systems which directly into the dwelling design. So the overall architectural strategy prioritizes passive heating and cooling, reducing reliance on external energy inputs during flooding seasons. And then a water collection and septic system are incorporated within each dwelling, providing critical public health to support further address at the community scale. And then these sections below are meant to illustrate the patterns of everyday life as they unfold across the raft. So these drawings demonstrate the continuity of daily activities across seasonal cycles, showing how the raft enables a community to sustain established ways of living by learning to live alongside the water and not against it. So as I mentioned previously, the raft system is designed to be flexible and transferable framework so that it's capable of implementation across climate vulnerable communities worldwide. So variations in raft configuration respond to differences in community size, in density, available spaces or resources, while maintaining a consistent and infrastructural logic. These are some of the variations that were considered for the Shonatala community, which took into account that they were beginning to be consumed by the urban sprawl of Sylhet, having a denser community to potentially accommodate larger groups of migrants. Although the rafts may be deployed in multiple configurations, the placement and the master plans must share civic functions and be site responsive, ensuring that local environmental conditions and community needs are addressed in order to protect and enhance the community's well-being. For example, in the Shonatala community, it was located with 2 rivers on the north and south, so it was increasingly susceptible to flash flood events. The implementation of retention areas and debris barriers was essential as a response to these events. There are infrastructure elements throughout all 3 scales. So within the raft, an area is reserved, as I mentioned previously, for an adaptable communal space. So when speaking with the residents of the Shonatala, they shared the difficulty of safeguarding their livestock during flooding. So this was realized as a livestock pen. And then at the community level, we address waste treatment with helified filters and provide design solutions for floating farms in an effort to support residents in more amphibious situations. And then within the broader master plan for the planned community of the Shonatala, designated central rafts accommodate shared civic functions depending on the facility's needs. Those can include educational facilities, marketplaces, and healthcare services. These collective infrastructures enable communities to maintain daily life and social stability during periods of environmental disruption. And as I considered the question of continuing this research, I think it would be necessary to test the feasibility of the design, both through the limited physical realization of the project of 1-to-1 scale, as of a singular raft, or by transferring these initial ideas to 1 or more new sites. Some of the sites that I began to look at are Jakarta, Indonesia, which is one of the fastest sinking cities in the world, displacing about 10 million people by 2050, or Makoko, Laos, which is the country's largest informal settlement, which is currently being demolished because of expanding high voltage power lines that the government considers health and safety violations. presentation, and I welcome any questions, and I look forward to your feedback.
Thank you, Christina. Jury members, anybody has a specific question to start with?
Yes, I have a question.
Okay.
Go ahead, Lisa.
Okay.
Lisa, go ahead.
Thank you for your presentation. Very clear. And yeah, lovely drawings. So I think, yeah, the communication via the drawings and your presentation was very good. Thank you. Maybe I missed it during the presentation, but I would like to know what the size of the raft, of one raft with 150 dwellings on it is approximately. So that's one sort of simple question. And another question, which I was wondering about, because yeah, I work at a city council, and there are always, you start off with the design, and then somewhere along the line you always get sort of into the practicalities of urban living. Waste needs to be collected, fire engines need to get to the homes. Have you thought about these issues as well, and what are your ideas as to how you would do that on your rafts?
Thank you for your questions. So one raft, I believe, is 75 meters by 75 meters. It's a square raft. And then in terms of the current infrastructure that exists within the Shonatala village, that would be what serves the rafts as well. And once they move to a fully amphibious nature, then they would use boats to be able to move trash around. And then in terms of water, there's a water collection system on each dwelling, and then water reservoirs that are stored underneath the raft as part of. So the raft is constructed using barrels. So some of those barrels are utilized to store water for the families living within the rafts. And then there's also septic tanks that are located underneath each dwelling, which are connected to halified filters. And those are at the broader community scale. So once they transition to amphibious living, that would be how they would manage.
Okay. Yeah, so some of the servicing would have to be done in an amphibious way, like waste collection, etc. Okay.
And by the residents themselves,
all right,
to some degree.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, I want to ask one question, just adding to what Lisa asked. When you have a unit like this, and you suggest it can be just kept on multiplied, that's not how the city works. There seems you seem to need, for public spaces, a hierarchy of spaces, right? So you can multiply it a certain number of times, and then you might need something else, indeed, either to collect for services or for something else. So you might want to look into that in future. But one other question which I want to ask you is, you keep on using the term raft. Is it floating?
It does. So it's an amphibious structure. So when there is no water, the raft is on the ground and it's cushioned with recycled tires. And then once water floods the site, it raises with the water. Okay. So you can see it in these sections. So this would be during the dry condition. And then there are guiding posts on multiple parts of the raft, which maintain the raft's position in place. And then it rises with the water.
Excellent. Thank you.
And then if I may address the infrastructure, I have thought a little bit about it in terms of having community centers or marketplaces. Those would be designed similarly to the raft. It would just hold different architecture. So they can have healthcare facilities. You can see a couple at the front of this community development.
Okay. Thank you. Claudia, you had a question?
Yes. Thank you. I worked in the Brazilian Amazon, and I came across many situations where people were living in rafts because of the water level, according to the rain season, goes up quite high. So people start living on rafts, and there is an entire city that has streets on raft where motorbikes, motor taxi, and so on circulate. So my question to you, and goes in line with what Liz said, in the end of the day, we think about, okay, how do we get the garbage out? How do we manage the water supply and sanitation, and all the municipal services that, as the agglomeration grows, demands for the quality of life the inhabitants. So my question to you, did you look into case studies that demonstrate the technical, operational viability of the solutions you are proposing, whether you kind of made a risk analysis of what would be like the most critical issue to look at in order for this to actually work in reality?
So the case studies that I looked at, this was specifically for a housing studio. So the case studies that I looked at was amphibious housing solutions, which were all single houses that were built on rafts. And so once you take that and you expand it to a bigger scale of adding 15 homes into the raft, the things that I addressed were, how do you add community spaces? How do you create engagement and have different social interventions within the raft? And then also touched on the main aspect would be for the community to be able to maintain itself for a flooding season, which the infrastructure that's implemented within the dwelling can sustain each family for about a week to 2 weeks in terms of water and sewage. And then the other operations that would take place would fall on the community's involvement with governmental policies and how the communities are run at the moment.
Okay. The Dutch cities, you have quite a number of experiences there, which is worthwhile to look how they solved some of the challenges you face when you propose such a scaled floating city, if I would call. Rotterdam, including, made a very interesting experiment with a floating farm. So there are a lot of issues to look and test whether certain things work or not. So I think it's a valid research and propositions you made, but I think I would recommend to look more on the feasibilities of the solutions in the practical world. Of course, this is a research and it's an experiment in design, but just to bring a little bit of the flavor of what is possible today. But well presented. Thank you.
Yeah, it's about the scalability, Christina. So I think your idea of this 15 units looks very good. The question is, and you have given public space within that, but our issue is about. But thank you so much. Okay.
Thank you.
Can we have the next presentation, please? So from Netherlands or from Indonesia, we go to India now, north of India, in the foothills of the Himalayas. Preetam Chaudhary from CEPT University. Yes, sir. Please, the floor is yours.
So, good afternoon, everyone. My thesis, The North Nexus, explore how public infrastructure and public spaces operates a single ecological system to guide urban growth in fragile Himalayan valleys. To clarify this intent, I will begin with the core idea of this thesis, which is the project reframes infrastructure as a public space, ecologically buffered and spatial organizer, rather than a technical afterthought. This rethinking becomes critical when we look at the current Himalayan conditions. Himalayan disasters are driven less by climate change and more by misplaced infrastructure, slow cutting, and rigid construction. However, this condition is not inherent to the Himalayas. Uh, so, historically, settlements evolved through terrain responsive infrastructure, where paths and water system form a living threshold. Going to the like this shift you can see in a valley region. Why that's why I chose a Kullu Valley as my design intervention. So Kullu Valley function is a watershed, biodiversity hotspot, and cultural landscape. Now under the infrastructural pressure because of the tourism and rapid urban pressure. The consequences of this pressure are more visible through water. Like as you can see in the image, flooding here shows how engineering rivers, edge, and disconnected infrastructure amplify natural events into a disaster. Beyond climate, human pressure of further intensify this condition, where population and tourism growth reveal that economical and infrastructure capacities are being exceeded. Yet planning responses struggle to address this ecologically. Planning frameworks addresses growth, but treat infrastructure as a technical, not ecological or spatial. These gaps require a deeper regional investigation. Regional analysis show most valley and is unsuitability for the development, reinforcing selective growth. Within this region, reading certain elements become critical, where Nagar stand out due to gentler slope, agriculture stability, and cultural continuity. With Nagar, one infrastructure system emerged as a central, which is a Nagar Central Watercourse, connects a forest and river, but now function as a neglected infrastructure. Understanding this required unpacking its natural systems. Where comes the overlaying slopes, hydrology, and vegetation reveals water as a structuring system. This relationship informed as a set of guiding rules, where ecological rules ensure stability before occupation, prioritizing bioengineering and no build zone. These principles were then tested at the immediate site scale, where the site is between upper settlement and the Bias River, acting as a vein for the Bias River, making the water course as a natural connector. However, this connector shows varying levels of stress that you can see in the degradation map. The degradation mapping identifies zones where infrastructure has failed, guiding repair over expansion. To structure this, a zoning logic was developed where I have worked on natural layers of that particular region or particular watershed according to the Mechak theories overlapping the entire layers. So this translated analysis into the lens suitability. Uh, sorry, yeah, becomes refined where public access and infrastructure intensify. Moderate slope act as a repair zone, allowing control public spaces. You can say that those are the tactile transition zone. Beyond this, urban life can re-enter. So the eco-urban is coming. It has on a gender low impact control infrastructure. Well, all the layers are there, but there is a layer missing, which is a public interaction. So that is coming according to the scenic value. Scenic value corridors are basically developed from the movements and the nodes where the tourism and the community spaces can be exist together. So all layers now come together in a single system where, uh, water forms the ecological infrastructure spine with development stepping down into intensity. The logic is explained through the clear design concept where the framework introduces an ecological spine, a threshold, and funnel corridors. These are the fundamental layers for this region. This context is implemented through a phased action, where in the phase one, we are actually restoring the ecological infrastructure spine, which is important because of that, hydrology or the main element of the ecology and the urban spaces are actually surviving. So this is one stabilized ecological systems are reinforced. In the phase two, stabilized slope, water, and vegetation system, which are basically focusing on the natural layers of a particular region. And only after this does public access emerge. So in the phase three, introduce a public access after ecological stability. See, this phase is culminated into the master plan when you can see that it is not overpowering the ecology or the particular regions. So this is how the public spaces are responding the particular region. Now, this master plan have a 60-40 ratio of ecology and urban planning, but it can be changed according to the base parameters like the natural water course. Ecology is important. Also, there is a public infrastructure which are actually thriving on ecology. So this is a basic matrix, or not a matrix, but illustration where you can see this all the layers from the start to the end, how it is responding as a ecologically also and as a public spaces also. So yeah, so basically this entire prototype can be rescaled in the valley scale also and the Himalaya scale also. So in the town scale, it is actually redefining the seasonal landscape, adaptive emerges as a adaptive landscape like that. In the valley, it is majorly focusing on the human presence and reconnects the settlement with the ecologies. So it is majorly in the valley, it is focusing a blue-green infrastructure, where in the Himalayan region, it is actually focusing the adaptiveness of ecology and the development. So the scale, the parameters are constantly changing because those are the natural, so that it can be replicated on the bigger scale also, and it can be replicated in the lower scale also. So in conclusion, so sorry, in the conclusion, the North Nexus reframe public infrastructure and public spaces as a single ecological system, stabilizing town, reducing valley scale risk, and offering a climate adaptive alternative for the Himalayas. So basically, in the major scale, these both are standing on the similar ground where you can't just neglect the ecology because of the urbanism, or you can't just neglect the urbanism because of the ecology. All these layers are important for to thrive the settlements, which are the urban groups in those valleys, are the important. So yes, so this, and yeah, these are some references I have took and the studies I have did. So according to conclude, it is a most of the collaboration between ecologists and the urbanists. Yes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your presentation, Preetham. I think particularly in areas like this, this is just a comment, and then I'll give the floor to Ashim, because I'm sure Ashim will have some questions to ask. One of the issues I think of such beautiful areas is also tourism. And
Yes,
I'm
yes.
happy that you talked about it, that you try to build that into the infrastructure, public space infrastructure, because that is very often missing, and then the tourists overrun a place. So, but at a certain moment, tourists also have to be stopped at a certain scale, right?
Definitely.
Okay, so Ashim, would you like to ask a question? Because this is very much your territory.
Yes. Thank you, Pritham, for your interesting presentation. It was quite well elaborated, and you highlighted a problem which is recurring not just in India, but I think across most of the Himalayan and several other mountain regions. I will quickly come to the most important thing, which I felt I see it missing. Within the mountains, there is a threshold of time, space, and seasons.
Okay.
And
Yes,
also
yes.
mobilities, which basically shapes ecology, it shapes daily life, seasonal life, and even yearly life. I mean, within
Yes.
the mountains, I think you have to, we have to understand that in the mountains, people move based on that. And as
Yes.
Sham mentioned that, tourism sort of tries to solidify this, and then governments want to make plans. So my question is that the way people live in this landscape and they continue to, function in a certain way, okay, they're adapting to tourism and these external pressures. But what kind of existing knowledge practices, traditional knowledge practices existed within such landscapes, and how you are ensuring that these existing set of practices and the way the contours are shaped and the mobilities which happen within the landscape are also absorbed within your plan. I mean, that's a question which I would like to hear from you.
Yeah, yes, sir.
Just
So
can ask.
culture. So when I started with the phenomena of the Himalayas. Then, because of the snow line, these movements are happening. So these movements, not just of ecology, but also the people are coming down, settling down in the valleys and all these things. So their cultural grounds keep shifting. They are not actually the architectural infrastructure, but basically the Maidan, or you can say the grounds. They're actually they are and basically they're shaped. The shape is a that it has like a very interesting thing about the Himalayas, that uh, individual trees, like they have considered trees and all these things are more. So in the cultural practice, I am accommodating the my program in the plan is that public spaces and public infrastructure should be not just for the tourism. They act as a tourism hub. Also, they are providing a seasonal community um, program for the locals. So it is not very heavily developed or heavily built. It can have that landscape fabric of the cultural, that what is the evolution of the Himalayas, like what they consider is a sacred place. Also, it is accommodating the tourism hubs also. So it is catering the all kind of the stakeholders. So it is there in my plan, but I didn't got. So as you can see in the plan, so this is the 12 number, the 9 number specifically I have designed as a tourism hub and the cultural as a cultural space, because it doesn't have entire built up area, but the surrounding it they can use as a culture event like a Dashera or like any big events like gods are arriving and all these things, because it is a near the temple this cultural spaces. So it is not just for the public, but it is also acting as a tourism hub. I hope you.
Yeah, thank you.
Can I come in? You presented an ecological framework and a land suitability framework as two clear propositions you bring forward in the way you envision the use and the future of this area of study that you present to us. Now I'm thinking loudly with myself, what would be the core message that the study brings forward, considering the risks that are implicit when we talk about urbanization, more intensification of use through tourism or through people that are settling along these territories. So what would you say?
So at that thought, my basic interpretation for the entire area, that the entire Kullu Valley is now in the focus because of the tourism, because of the scenic values and all. But if we implement or if we prioritize the cultural knowledge of there, then that void will be neglected. The So that's what I. So if it is a phasing wise things, then we should probably consider the foundation. Foundation is a cultural knowledge. Then we are going towards the urban development. We can say that because of the the urban development is increasing because of the tourism. That is a big economic aspect to these valleys. So if you want to create a tourism there, then it can be with the natural ecological layers, because without them, this entire character of the valleys will be gone. So that will be the strong point for that. I hope you get this answered your question.
Not exactly, because I'm trying to figure out what is the core message that you want to give that can be universal, that is not only case specific, but it's a universal message that you give.
Okay, so for that, when I have basically the foundation layers are important in any region, specifically in the hilly region, because they are actually developing the entire topography of that Himalayan regions. If you don't take care of them or you don't intervene properly or sensitively in them, then that entire region will be fall down. So yeah, so my core message is to intervene sensitively in those foundational layers, so that that topography will remain, and then the further phases can be developed. I hope.
Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. And we'll move on to the next one. But I mean, we are getting totally varied projects which are being shown to us. And of course, we have gone through all of these as jury members, but it's always nice to see how you present it. So the next one, please. Parnavi Harde from the School of Planning and Architecture from Bhopal. Parnavi, please present your thesis, and we particularly want to see because you talk about creating equity in development from the lens of spatial justice. So please also emphasize that aspect. Thank you.
Sure. Yes. Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. I am Parnavi Harde, currently going live from Toronto, Canada. And my thesis is Rethinking Publicness from the Lens of Spatial Justice, which examines how contested lakefront started. The project addresses the spatial injustice by balancing the old and new, ensuring public space remains inclusive. The focus is on the intentional creation of public spaces that accommodate multiple users in Indian cities. Neoliberal development has increasingly privatized public realms, displacing informal users and eroding livelihoods. This is the research study that I have done, and I have prepared it myself, the layer by layer segregations through the readings to understand how I can try and attempt to solve the issues. The site lies within Nagpur's historical mill belt along the lakefront. Once vibrant and productive, in post-industrial decline and fragmented ownership have created speculative pressures. I observed that normal informal vendors, workers, and nearby residents depends on this space daily. It is densely populated, yet have no formal claim. The focus is on creating spaces that bridge the formal and informal needs. I start with the cotton market precinct, which is currently fragmented, a lost and a dead zone. The intention behind activating is to reconnect into a vibrant, inclusive public space. Once the city's most active public realm in pre independent times, it has now become a city level magnet, linking heritage, commerce, and informal activities. As we see, Nagpur grew from the small Mahal area evolving into the city where mills, lakes, leisure areas were closely intertwined. As we can see, the workplaces, the mills, the lake, the leisure areas that created a vibrant, dense, walkable communities, we observed there was multiple cultural diversities in the maps with different types of markets and social bonds strengthened with the connection of the lake. But today we see there are different multiple layers that I analyzed were the different housing types, different types of economic profile, different ethnic groups, and also can see how the lakes and the dead areas are quite impermeable. Once, the lake, which was highly active, is now inactive despite being central to the city. The markets which bustle, yet the lakes remains disconnected. The analysis stark quite inequality between the privatized communities which occupy large chunk of lands and are dead, while the dense and diverse communities have all the activities spillover coming on the streets. There is minimal public life, but maximum public life on the streets. Everyday interactions, but no inclusive dedicated spaces exist. The precinct is very unique because the precinct has a lot of festival character, a lot of culture and heritage in it, and some of the festivals are unique to this own precinct. And as we can see, a lot of activities are happening here, but if we see the condition, the lakefront is dead, a lot of streets are unsafe, there is a potential land but is left defunct, a lot of amenities earlier but are not now being addressed. This connection was highlighted an urgent need to reclaim civic spaces and inform the intention behind every intervention. As I identified five urban magnets, which is the Cotton Market, Raman Science Center, Shukravari Lake, Railway Metro Node, and Empress Milllands. Connecting these anchors is an attempt to create coherent, inclusive public realm, heritage, and the right to the city. The idea behind these intervention is to balance privatization pressures with social diversity, unlocking the site's potential. As we can see, the strategy structures the public realm through everyday spaces, visitor spaces, heritage zones, and informal activities areas and city level spaces. At micro level, these were the findings, inference, and possibilities. I personally went to each and every site and created and tried to understand how these findings and inference can create a possibility towards activating this public, towards more publicness and public realm. At macro level, neighborhood connections to the lake are strengthened. At macro at macro level, major anchors like the lake, cotton market, and mill lands form a city level engagement space integrated into a wider urban network. The focus is here to address spatial injustices while reinforcing the precinct's identity and historical significance. The structure plan which is created is to activate the precinct through a symbiotic relationship between the informal needs and the formal economic activities. City level open spaces are created to increase interactions, connections, and activities. Adaptive reuse of existing buildings supports informal uses, while informal plazas provide dedicated street activity spaces. The idea behind redesigning these streets is to connect, integrate heritage, and create an inclusive public realm. If we see the details of the plan, the detail talks about the plan emphasizes the character development of this lake, where public realm street design codes for the precinct. Shukravari Lake is now transformed into an inclusive edge with cycling tracks, small parks, small spaces for the exhibition, where where the vendors can sell their items, as well as the formal people who are coming here can have a quality of life throughout the day. Mill lands, which were once vacant, shall be revitalized into holistic communal spaces, blending inclusivity, cultural events, markets, and green spaces. These green spaces act as a connector, linking the precincts and enhancing connectivity, encouraging interaction between formal and informal groups. The cotton market, which was once highly active in the pre independence area, again became defunct, and the intention of using cotton market as adaptive reuse will become a celebratory public realm. Its location near railway station and the metro node is very strategic and very strengthening to the network of pedestrian, metro, and more usable to the Indian context, where walkable, vendor friendly, and commuter oriented streets are the necessity in India. Lastly, I would go to my slide with heritage and old city interventions which will connect the lake. In the old city, smaller interventions will enhance vibrancy, decongest streets, and improve the pedestrian flow. Adaptive reuse multifunctional spaces along the temple festivals is this is the main street where the festivals happen, and some of the spaces which were defunct can be activated for the festival, food parks, and activities spillover of the temple areas, and which will directly connect and strengthen the Shukravari Lake pedestrian. Lastly, I would like to say in conclusion, this project demonstrates how spatial justice can guide equitable urban development. It transforms contested land into a shared civic asset rather than reinforcing and the right to the city to live. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for your presentation, Parnavi. I'll start by asking you a couple of questions.
Yes.
The largest space which you have within the series of spaces which you have looked at is the Shukravari Lake,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
The present condition of it, is it always full with water or is it dry once in a while?
It usually is full with water, but once in like 5 6 years, it was dry because there was some construction which was going on and it was dried on purpose.
But normally it is okay. So normally it's just
It is
full.
usually full. Yes.
Usually, okay. You have suggested some interventions at the edges because I saw some
Right.
steps. That land which
Yes.
have you reclaimed it from the lake itself, or is that land already available?
The land is already available. I have tried to keep it as much as water body as possible, and the walkways which are created will be above the water, and I'm not trying to like reduce the area of the water body.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Anybody else? Other jury members, please. Sorry.
Yes, I have a question.
Yes.
Well, thank you for your presentation. And it's a very comprehensive design, and you've actually made a lot of interventions, or showed us a lot of interventions to make this city more accessible for, to different people. I was wondering, while you have been working on this project, can you sort of distill a number of generic recommendations that you could give to give to us so that more people can get a right to the city? You've now looked at sort of very site-specific solutions, but is it possible for you to sort of zoom out, or have you thought about this? If I zoom out and I think, what generic lessons have I learned here that I can apply to other cities as well?
Thank you for the question. The most generic aspect that I thought was there is a big gap between the formal and informal people in the society. There are different needs and wants. For the informal people, like the vendors, they don't have space. And for the formal people, need a space of engagement in the city. That from where I started my thesis. So this can collaborate, and my intention was to create and activate these dead spaces so that the wants of the people will become needs of the informal people. So it actively collaborates to and and it caters to all type of people and create an economic as well as a leisure need.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other jury member, Claudia or Rashid?
Yeah, just a comment with I do appreciate the propositions you made on small scale interventions, streets for people, public space, and this kind of a chirurgic intervention. I don't know if you're familiar with the work of Jaime Lerner, who was an urban planner and architect who made a lot of experience and fame with the city of Curitiba in Brazil. He coined the term urban acupuncture as a way to transform cities, not with a macro master plan, but with a number of short-term interventions that with each other with a vision. When you look at this vision for the future, what would be the fundamental elements that would materialize through interventions of design, the right to the city or cities for all?
The most important and fundamental elements will be the spaces in the city which are dead. That is the must need to reactivate it rather than acquiring new lands and creating something new. The intention is to reactivate these spaces will become the major idea.
So
This
a
is
kind
what
of
I
a
think. Yeah.
So a kind of a democratization of the existing space in the city, right?
But
Right.
but Nick, if just
Yeah.
building on top of what Claudio asked, I asked you about the water body, but then you have the
Right.
mill lands, right?
Yeah,
What is the
right.
state of the mill land? Who owns it?
Currently dead vacant and it is under the government. And
Oh,
the
the government
government is,
owns it. The local
yeah,
government.
the local government owns this because the Maharashtra State Textile Corporation had owned it earlier, and then again it is under the municipal corporation. And I was working on this project, and I was in with word with the municipal corporations and the smart city people, and they are trying to propose something here because it is a very big land in the heart of the city. The
Correct.
precinct is very dense. So their intention was to activate this land because it has been dense since past 20 years. And the people around it, a lot of activities and markets are happening on the streets. The streets become decongest. It is very difficult to go on a weekend there. So a lot of people do not prefer going there in the weekend. And since we have railway stations and a lot of activators, it becomes highly congested. That is why the need of this space is the needs to be activated so that a lot of spillover of activities can go in that space.
And what is the city thinking of doing? I mean, why is it waiting for 20 years? I mean, there must be a reason, right?
Yeah.
And what is the reason?
Actually now the lake work has been started. So small interventions. I try to present this in the smart city. They have appreciated the idea. The work of the lake has been started, whereas a lot of dead spaces are now being created into active public markets. It is in the process actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Panavi. Okay, so now we'll go on to the last presentation for today, and that is Karim M. Fahimi from, this is for the first time also that somebody from this particular institute in Egypt has made it to the shortlist. So welcome. And you have a very interesting study about the Digla Square in Cairo, which we really like. So we would like to listen to you, Karim. The floor is yours.
Hello, my name is Karim Fahmi, and today I present you my thesis work in which I try to address the problem of social segregation, deeply rooted in the DNA of several cosmopolitan cities, including my very own Cairo. Resonating with the political and economical change in the past century, Cairo witnessed waves of internal and external mass immigration. Income inequalities were translated into the building of slums and gated communities. Therefore, distance between the various social groups kept growing both spatially and socially. Segregations create a loop in which each group behaves according to its social norms. Actions and behaviors of the others become unpredictable, and people seek refuge in homogeneous social enclaves away from different others. This phenomenon leads to intergroup anxiety and fear, further limiting the inclusivity. In this research, I see public spaces as an opportunity for fostering intergroup contact among diverse social groups, allowing them to communicate and interact and learn about each other. But this raises architecture in question. How public spaces support meaningful intergroup contact in socially segregated cities? My research investigates this question through the case study of Digla Square in Al Maadi neighborhood, where I lived for years. Unlike the status quo, Digla is an urban public space that unexpectedly accommodates diverse social groups and enable repeated interactions. Hearing that, one would imagine that the square is a sophisticated and unprecedented design. But Digla Square is exactly the opposite. It's a small roundabout located between two middle-brow neighborhoods with central fountain and number of kiosks surrounded by several roundabouts forming a network. However, it represents a great opportunity to explore platforms of intergroup contact that overcome the effect of social segregation. Aim and objective, moving to the methodology. Acknowledging the complexity and sensitivity of this phenomenon, the qualitative research I started by constructing a theoretical framework, which provided a structured approach to guide research process, offering a roadmap for both data collection and analysis. It combined theories from sociology and human geography with which focused on human behavior and social interaction and cultural context, and urban design literature, which involved the exploration of physical setting. The framework was tested in the fieldwork. The objective of the fieldwork was to gather rich data about the phenomenon under study. Observation documented variations in activities and encounters across times and occasions, while field notes, sketches, and photographs recorded physical setting and social patterns. This has been triangulated with interviews which revealed subjective perceptions, emotions, and social relations that shaped users' engagement with shared environments. This has been followed following the constructive ground theory to get relations between all these data and having this memory writing process from the beginning of the study has revealed 3 themes. The first theme is DAIDA as a place to live, work, and play. It's a flexible space where people can come together and do various activities. DAIDA Square is located at a crossroad between public transport networks. The square acts as a transit. Taxis and minivans use it as a main stop. It encourages some trading, which encouraged some trading activities. Here we see that the taxi driver is standing looking for customers while staying in the shade, doing optional activities, and it will be surely followed by some social activities with friends and peers. The diversity of activities is allowed because the vehicle traffic flow already segmented the square into some smaller pockets, which each group can take and have different activities. So again, trading activities, formal and informal. Also, the square act as a break area for the residents and workers, whether these workers are working at the square or at the surrounding. It has some amenities which make this possible. It's also a social arena and a meeting spot which hosts both planned social activities and by chance social activities happening in the center of the square itself. Also, there are like the extension of the square can host activities of public solitude, so people can be there without having active interaction with others. And at night, when traffic flow is minimal, the square hosts unexpected activities like playing football, for instance. So here we see that the square affords people with things that they don't have elsewhere. Okay, so maybe it's a snack from the kiosk or a spot in the shade that can be used in the hot summer days. Moving to the second theme, it presents the square as a place to appropriate and personalize. And this theme reflects on the sense of belonging to the square. As you can already observe, the square doesn't have furniture, doesn't have like seats. And this drives people to bring their own seats. They also sit in the car trunks or on the scooters. And this gives them a sense of appreciation and sense of belonging to the place itself, making the place their own extension of their houses. The third theme is about eliminating sources of social discomfort, allowing social engagement to occur. Here, the landscape plays a role, thanks to the presence of old evergreen. Thanks to the presence of old evergreen trees, also, central to the square layout is a water body, the fountain, which we talked about, that serve as a lookout where people usually orient themselves and therefore avoid the awkward gazes that can occur between people that are already have tension between them. The street extending from the square also serve as a passive participation in the social life. The relatively small scale of the neighborhood allow for people to get to know each other. People tend to follow the tacit rules and avoid troubles. Taxi drivers, vendors, and other categorical strangers are considered open persons where people are easier to communicate with and whom their presence comfort the vulnerable groups. Special occasions form a chance to participate passively in the social public life. And this is like a summary of these results. So while we see that the first two themes are already theorized, the third one is actually not that this much explored before. And in this thesis, I argued that inclusive public spaces can reverse this trajectory of social segregation when designed to prompt comfort, safety, and informal interaction. Such spaces act as equalizing grounds, enabling different groups to coexist, communicate, and negotiate their roles in the public realm. And with this, I end my presentation. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Kareem, for your presentation. Before I let the other jury members ask a question, I can't but make a comment regarding the two last presentations, both of which try to create public spaces, look at public spaces and making them inclusive. And one actually looks at an example where minimal design intervention has been done, and the other, the one of Parnavi, where the design interventions are at the other extreme. So I wonder which one really works well, and I think we can have a good discussions on it. But Kareem, very interesting presentation and analysis of what is there. Jury members, anybody who has a question?
Yes, I have a question. I also find this a very interesting study because, as a designer, when I look at this space, it doesn't look that interesting. It's like it's just a roundabout. But you've shown that that the space is such that it actually encourages people to interact, and especially people from segregated communities. And I've been wondering to myself, do you have you've shown sort of how people meet along that space and different interactions that they have, but do you also have an idea as to why this space encourages interaction? What are the qualities that makes it a space where people do actually interact?
So starting with this, actually a very nice question, because this is like the aim of my internal motivation about this study, actually to find why this phenomena occur in this roundabout specifically, and not like one nearby or something else. So this relies actually in the third theme, which is like how people doesn't feel this force to interact or to communicate with each other. Here we see that this social comfort, like what brings them towards this goal of having them together in a dignified way. So while like the workers have this as a place of gaining money, residents find it a very good place to stay without bothering each other. So the specificity about like the layout itself, and having these islands where kiosks are hosted, and having the evergreen trees, which actually, like without it or when trimmed badly, problems occur between, like this is for a fact, it occurred. I have seen that, and police has interfered between the residents and the public space. So Degla Square with its specificities act as like, allow me to say, like maybe a non-place, or a place where people can go and stay like easy, without problems. And also I can't let this point go without mentioning that the food and beverage outlets are like kiosks, which sell products that are consumed by the whole spectrum of social strata. So cigarettes, Pepsi, cans, whatever, these snacks are like consumed by all. Other public spaces, even nearby the square, are not like that. There is like this big food outlet, which like segregate people with the money they pay. Other gardens and other places also can be recalled in this, because these gardens are controlled by people of surrounding residency. So this is like a place where several aspects came together to form a haven for people like who want just to go and relax.
Okay, thank you.
I hope I answered the question.
Yes, thank you.
Claudia, but go ahead, please. Claudio, Ashim.
I will just ask a question. Thanks for your presentation. It was quite nice to see, how public realms are being appropriated by people themselves, and they continue to be critical places within the city. And it's also interesting that you've used some very simple drawings and a lot of images to convey the message that it could be any square in the world, but I think the methodology and the analysis which you have used is quite helpful. I mean, it also gives me certain ideas. I just have one question. So, for example, as you mentioned, I mean, I think it also has been mentioned that this square, let's say, can be anywhere. So how do you see your own methods, if you go beyond, continuing this work, that do you come up with, design ideas for how small neighborhood spaces can appropriate and make, their own spaces? Or do you see that, the way you look into this work, it can inform policy at, let's say, at the level of Cairo? Or do you see that your work can be a way of identifying, public spaces based on their sizes, configurations, and positions within the city that can be activated to, achieve what this specific place is, the qualities of this existing space is achieving for the residents? Just that.
Okay, I will answer your question. It's a very good question that makes me think about what? Think about our like state of the realm in or like state of the art in Cairo. In Cairo, we tend to fall in this problem. Like we have one insight, and then we just multiplied by 1,000 in all other spaces, and this has like this contributed like badly in the shaping the city and its life. So yes, of course, this study can help or like give insights to governance, but this is like I acknowledge that it's a single case study. It's a single place, and here I call for other participatory methods and other case studies from the city itself. And of course, in this, we can take this theoretical framework that is already tailored to such social and cultural specificity of Cairo or cities that are which has the problem of like it's not a cultural problem, it's not an immigration problem, it's an economic problem of segregation. So for sure, this can guide the government and guide the process of designing or readjusting already existing public spaces. So I hope I answered this.
I think we'll have to end there now, Karim, because of time, because we have not. Sorry, Claudio, but we'll have to leave your question this time.
It's okay.
Okay. Thank you so much, Karim, and thank you all of you for presenting your 9 studies. And it makes us think about what public spaces should really be. And indeed, should they be, we all want them to be inclusive, but does it also mean that everybody should, can you also be private in public space? That's the question I'll leave you with for now. Because also that is being anonymous and being on your own is a quality of public space. Thank you, all of you. The final award, what we will do is the jury will now go in session of deliberation, and then we will be discussing this in the coming weeks. And on the 28th of February, Mitali, via My Livable City, you will get the intimation that we'll be announcing the awards. We will announce the awards on that day itself, which means all of you will be requested to be there. And we have the first, second, and third award with the monetary benefits which go with it. But sometimes we also give joint awards So more than 3 people could get awards. And the other advantage of the whole thing is, besides the monetary thing, is that the award-winning studies are published in the magazine My Livable City, which we have done every year. And My Livable City is kind enough to do that. So I'll welcome you all back on the 28th of February. Thank you, jury members, for taking your time in the coming weeks to decide who we should award the prizes to. Thank you, My Livable City and AFAQ, for arranging this particular session. I think now the candidates can leave. Is that right, AFAQ? And we, as jury members, still have half an hour to discuss things with each other. Huh? So I think let us know once the coast is clear and, and the participants have left.